Who is it?
It's Ed Rooney, Ferris. I'd like to have a word with you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't come to the podcast right now. I'm afraid in my weakened condition, I could take a nasty spill on the way to the laptop and subject myself to further podcast absences.
Save it, Ferris. Come down here.
You can reach my parents at their place of business. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate your concern for my well-being.
I am not leaving till you come down and talk to me, Ferris.
Have a nice day.
You're in big trouble, Buster. Get down here. Ferris. Ferris!
We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Movie Mania podcast where we talk films past, present and future. I am Bandit of Bandit Incorporated and Trey is not here right now, but you know, just because someone strays from the path and stumbles from the podcast, it doesn't mean that they're lost forever. And we have Trilbee here. Hello, Trilbee.
I thought you were going to say he's playing hooky or something.
Oh, that would have been a better one to say, yeah.
It would have been receiving a crank phone call saying, "Hey, he needs to get out of school, so I'm gonna get you."
See?
Well, I'm doing good. How are you doing, Bandit?
I'm doing very well. I haven't really uploaded anything on my channel for a long time because I'm on the home stretch with my Star Wars fan fiction thing. It's like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's been like 6 months. It's taken so long.
Yeah, you see the end of hyperspace.
Oh, I can't. I'm enjoying it, but I can't wait till it's over because I just want to do something else.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah. I'm good. There's not been much on my channel this week either because I've been working nights on a film shoot or a TV shoot, and the hours have been very long. It's been very wet because it's the British summer, so of course it's snowing, of course it's raining. It's been a fun time. It just doesn't allow me to go to the movies much or to get regular uploads done. But it's been fun, and hopefully things will be much better this week.
Absolutely. Well, for all our listeners, this week we're going to be covering X-Men Days of Future Past because X-Men Apocalypse will be out. That'll be our episode next week. And since it's the 30th anniversary of Ferris Buellers Day Off coming up soon, we figured in our homework section we'll cover Ferris Bueller's Day Off because Trilbee has never actually seen that movie before.
No, I saw it. I caught it on UK Netflix a few days ago, and the first time I ever saw it, and I'll let you know my thoughts on it when we get to that segment.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So whether you're watching us on YouTube or whether you're listening to us on iTunes, if you look down in the description, you'll see timestamps for all the different topics that we're talking about. So if you want to jump ahead or if you get bored of what we're talking about, you can just skip to your heart's content. Okay, shall we get to the movie news?
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
So, top story is something that our absentee friend Trey would really appreciate, which is Force Awakens news, or sequel to Force Awakens. And it says here, they've opened up a little bit about potential romances in the future. And John Boyega, who plays Stormtrooper turned Rebel Finn, recently spoke to the folks over at Variety regarding what to expect in Episode 8. Eventually he was asked what is going to happen between his character Finn and Rey, to which Boyega said, "Yes, Finn and Rey, they're just friends. Finn is a Stormtrooper, so he doesn't really know what's going on. So the romance thing is something that's going to be interesting in the next installment. It's not going to go the way I think it's going to go." So there's still hope out there for Trey to see Finn and Poe get together by the sound of that. Yeah. Like
I said the other week, it just feels like you could literally pair up anybody from The Force Awakens and they would be an actual genuine romantic couple.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think there needs to be a lot of romance in Star Wars. Like, I don't think that's the driving force of why people go and see those movies or watch that franchise. But hey, if it feels natural, then go for it.
I mean, I suppose,
if Poe wants to do it with BB-8, then why can't a man do a droid?
That's right.
Yeah, I know, it's the future.
He could date a Force ghost if he wants. It's Star Wars. You can.
Oh no! I just realised the Star Wars isn't the future; it's the past. Oh no! Okay. That's very problematic.
It's okay. They're so far ahead of the curve that they're behind it. That's how it works.
Oh no! I've gone cross-eyed. I can't keep track of all the time travel.
But it sounds to me like, they're probably just going to keep them friends. But it's interesting how he says like he's a stormtrooper, so he doesn't really understand what's going on. So I guess he probably hasn't interacted with many girls if he's a stormtrooper.
Yeah, I can imagine it being difficult in those stormtrooper shower rooms. They're just there in towels, still wearing their helmets, obviously. It's just a bit of a boys' club, no romance.
How do they even go to the bathroom in those things? That must be a pain.
Oh, no, I think it's in the suit.
Oh, well, that'd be good, actually.
Yeah, and when they're marching around the Death Star corridors, you just hear swish, 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 like just the water. You just hear it as they walk around. I got too in depth. I apologise.
That would help in battle if they're too scared. They can just go in the suit, so it's all good.
Well, like a cat, they just mark the territory and flee.
Oh God.
Oh, what were we talking about?
We're talking about. Well, we're moving on now. Okay, BFG. The BFG is coming up. Steven Spielberg's latest whimsical fop of a film. Does that make sense? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, the BFG, based off Roald Dahl's, one of Roald Dahl's books, pretty much the only one I think that really hasn't, or one of the few that hasn't had a movie yet. The Big Friendly Giant BFG, it's screened in the Cannes Film Festival to... Cannes! To surprisingly mixed reviews. Here's some of the responses. First one from Total Film says, "The BFG is awash with wonderment. So much heart, imagination, and humour. I want to give Mark Rylance a big hug. Hashtag Cannes 2016. Pretty much what you'd expect. But then the next one says, the BFG, charming in parts, middling in others. Very young kids will love it. This is backed up with the next review. Review in quotes. Says, I can't imagine anyone but very tiny tots getting anything from the BFG. But honestly, I think they'd be bored too. So, who knows what's going to happen with BFG. But from what I remember of that story, I remember reading it or having it read to me as a kid when, Roald Dahl was all the rage. And the only thing I can really remember is it takes like an Alice in Wonderland turn where this girl's talking to this giant and like there's something where like burps and farts are backwards or something.
Yeah, it's a weird book. It's a weird book, but they released a new trailer today actually, and the trailer does kind of speak to that mindset that the critics are, and that it seems like kid bait. It's there for the really young kids to get a whimsical adventure. Adults might not get so much out of it, but I think that's not really who it's targeting. I think it is going for because like big blockbuster movies that are just for kids are a very rare breed nowadays. You don't really get an E.T. or you don't really get anything like that. It's normally crossing audiences, like the Marvel films can speak to young kids and adults, whereas a big market just for kids, it's not so common nowadays. So I don't really have a problem with that. But I do like Mark Rylance in the trailers, because have you seen the latest one that dropped today?
Not yet, no.
It opens with him naming off some of the evil giants that he lives with, and Sophie, the young girl, is like, "You're gonna eat me?" And he says, "You think just because I'm a giant, I'm going to eat you like some cannibal?" I guess that was really funny. I think Mark Rylance is going to kill it in this role. He seems really funny and really having a good time. Yeah. The posters have looked really good. This does look like something that looks really enjoyable. But the big news that I saw today coming out of the Cannes Film Festival was Ken Loach's new film, I, Daniel Blake, which was reducing some audiences to tears.
Wow.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's going to speak a lot to the UK, because that's basically a big anti-government statement movie, which I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah. Sorry, what was it? I zoned out because I was reading the next article. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's called I, Daniel Blake.
Ah.
So that's the one that's going to be known as the one that made everybody cry at the Cannes Film Festival.
Wow. Well, a lot of eyes are on London at the moment, I'll tell you what. But let's not get into politics. All right, the next question, next news story is we probably wondered, like, what would a civil war been like if they didn't get the rights to Spider-Man? How would they have altered the story? Well, they've just recently, a couple of the screenwriters, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, have said this about sort of the process they went through as they were trying to write the story without knowing if they're getting him or not. They said, we had him in, and sometimes a month or two later, Kevin would come back to us and say, no, negotiations are not going quite well. Don't plan on him. I don't know. He'd say, the guy says, I don't know the exact date when corporate signed with Sony, but it eventually led to some hard, fast choices later on in this regard. It was very good that he was in a section where the script would have called for somebody there, but there wasn't necessarily a tremendous amount of quantum mechanics riding on... God, this is a weird statement. Riding on that, it had to be... Oh, okay. So, but there wasn't necessarily a huge amount of quantum mechanics riding on that it had to be Spider-Man. So if we finally didn't get him, the whole house of cards wouldn't fall down. It would just mean we would have to come up with a different character to play that function. Sounds like to me they just would have made Black Panther's entrance in that fight a little bit more dramatic. Remember, Spider-Man has the big dramatic entrance, and then Black Panther's just like, hello, and he just walks on.
I don't know, he leaps in and he says, Captain, and he just, like, just makes you put your fist in the air.
Yeah.
It is an awesome entrance, but what they're saying, I think, makes total sense, like, because they were deep into writing Civil War when they were about to start production on Civil War, I think, when... the news about Spider-Man joining the MCU came out. So, it makes sense when watching the film because the scenes with Peter Parker, without getting into spoilers, with just Peter Parker out of the suit, take place far removed from the action. It probably could have been done in a couple of days on reshoots, and Spider-Man, when he's in the suit, that's just all CGI and is also kind of mostly removed from the action. There's like that big confrontation between him, Falcon, and the Winter Soldier, which is removed from the rest of the action. So yeah, it's not a plot specific role, but they made a way to tie it into the themes of the movie and just make it really enjoyable. So yeah, these comments make sense. And who do you think they would have got other than Black Panther? Do you think they would have got maybe a hero that we hadn't seen before to replace Spider-Man if the whole deal didn't work out?
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe they could have put Doctor Strange in.
Ooh.
You know,
that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, that would have been... Other than that, let's see, what other movies are coming out soon? I mean, there's another Guardians of the Galaxy, but they can't do that.
There's Ms. Marvel, and Ms. Marvel was originally going to be at the very end of Age of Ultron before being replaced by Scarlet Witch. It's like in one of the last shots of the film when the new Avengers are lining up. That was originally going to be Ms. Marvel.
Okay, yeah, it might have been that. Yeah, it might have been Miss Marvel. Or maybe, what am I... Oh, God, I had an idea, it slipped out of my head, doesn't matter. It's still really early. It's 6:45 a.m. I'm not used to being
it would have been pretty cool if that's when Pepper Potts shows up. When she's in because in the comics she's got an Iron Man suit. She calls herself Rescue.
Yeah, but she doesn't have the lava powers anymore. Does she? He inexplicably got rid of them.
Yeah, why would you get rid of that? Lava powers.
Yeah, because she wasn't going to blow up because what's her name had sorted it out by then, you know. Maybe it was going to be the real Mandarin. Maybe that's who's going to show up.
It just would have been just awash with cameos. Everyone's there. Yeah.
Well, final story is Godzilla 2 is running into a few problems. Namely, the director's leaving.
That's just a minor setback. 'Tis but a scratch.
'Tis but a scratch. The Black Knight always triumphs. It says, according to a new report from Deadline, it appears that Gareth Edwards has dropped out of Godzilla 2, leaving the project without a director. The decision to depart from the film seems primarily based on his desire to take a step back from the big-budget blockbusters and pursue his own smaller-scale passion projects. I wonder if that's supposed to be a pun. Smaller scale, if he's backing away from Godzilla. Deadline's report on the development emphasizes that Edwards' departure from the project is in no way, shape, or form rooted in any sort of conflict behind the scenes. You know, it does leave them with a gaping hole. They obviously need a new director. I mean, obviously he's got enough going on with Star Wars and Rogue One and all that. So if he wants to do a smaller film, good for him. But this just goes to like what I've been saying since the very first Godzilla movie, which is just do King Kong versus Godzilla. Nobody cares about Kong Skull Island. Only the people who actually liked the first Godzilla movie will care about a Godzilla sequel. They are planning to do King Kong versus Godzilla, so just move that forward and make that Godzilla 2 to get everyone back on board. What do you reckon?
I think that I'm not surprised that this happened, because when Godzilla 2 was announced, he wasn't even sure if he was going to be attached to the project at first. Then he was brought back on. Then he got the Rogue One gig, and then people wondering if he'd come back to that. I think this is something that has been known at Warner Brothers for a while, because the reason he gave, like, I want to work on some smaller projects, like, he's known that he's doing Rogue One for quite some time. I believe that film is actually in post-production. He's had plenty of time to realise what he's going to do next. But if he wants to do a smaller scale project, you can do Godzilla 2, just make a little tiny model village, like a small scale village, and have like a man in a suit stomp around. I don't know if he literally means it. I feel like Hot Fuzz, like in Hot Fuzz, do you want to be a big cop in a small town? Then go to the model village. Like, just do something like that. But when is Kong Skull Island actually getting released? That's March 10th. Blimey, that's less than a year away. Yeah. So March 10th, and Godzilla 2 is coming out like 2 years later. Like, do they really need Godzilla 2 between Godzilla and King Kong? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, depends what type of story they want to tell, because that's going to have Mothra and Rodan, apparently, Godzilla 2.
Yeah.
Who are two
waste of time.
Big,
just like, King Kong, give me King Kong. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, well, let's see how well Kong Skull Island does, and then who knows, maybe that director will decide to do Godzilla 2 as well. It depends how good a relationship that they have with each other. I'm not sure who they'd get to direct Godzilla 2 in terms of replacement, though. Because Gareth Edwards, I think he was one of the main things holding the first Godzilla movie back. Like, I don't think he's a bad filmmaker. I just think his sensibilities are not right for Godzilla. That movie took about a good 100 minutes to actually get going and get exciting, which was way too late for a Godzilla film, and it was kind of at odds with itself. So hopefully a sequel can improve on it. I'm looking forward to Rogue One a lot, though. I'm looking forward to what he does next if he is going to do a smaller project. Or it would be really annoying if he says, I want to do a small project, then it turns out he's doing, I don't know, Infinity War Part 3 or something. He's doing a massive sequel. That would be a bit of a FU to Warner Brothers.
That's right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Star Wars Rogue One story as well. That's just this December, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yeah. You know what we should do is, like, you know, when we were leading up to Star Wars 7, me and Trey, we, like, did an episode of, like, the first 3 Star Wars movies, like, 4, 5, and 6, the original trilogy. Do you reckon we should do something leading up to Rogue One? Maybe not the prequel trilogy. Maybe we could save that for episode 8 or something.
I think there's only one thing we can watch to prepare for Rogue One. We've got to watch those Ewok specials. All of them. I was
thinking, like, the Clone Wars movie and maybe the series or something.
Hey, the Clone Wars movie, it ain't terrible. Ain't good. Just saying that. There's a really awesome sequence where they have a fight on a wall, and it's a vertical fight. That's probably the most original thing to come from the prequels. But
that's true. Yeah.
Could be worse.
Well, what about...
Could be the Ewoks.
Yeah, we could watch, like, the Ewoks, or maybe, like, the holiday special, the Star Wars holiday special.
It is Christmas.
Yeah, the one that's so horrible even George Lucas tries to deny it exists. Yeah.
We'll have a Life Day special.
Yeah.
We'll celebrate a day of peace.
We'll have a Life Day episode. That'd be great. All right, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay.
Okay. I know that was the last news story you got, but through Skype, I'm sending you a picture. That is Channing Tatum on the set of Kingsman 2, looking incredibly dapper in glasses and a bowler hat. That's filming right now. That picture's just come up on my news feed.
Oh, he looks so sad.
Sad Tatum.
Look at him. Oh, I feel bad for you, Channing Tatum. And I have a kinship with you because my cat avatar is over his face in our thumbnail picture.
but
for everyone who's wondering, the thumbnail picture for the podcast, it was Channing Tatum, Idris Elba, and Aaron Taylor-Johnson. And so that's my cat avatars over Channing Tatum. Trey is Idris Elba, and you, Trilbee, are just Aaron Taylor-Johnson with a hat.
Yeah, I'm just away from you with my alcohol.
He's like tipping it out though. He's like, I don't drink, sort of thing.
I think that drink needs to be replaced with like a cup of tea or something, because that's what I'm actually holding right now. But for those of you listening at home, just Google Channing Tatum Kingsman 2, and you may find a picture of him looking relatively adorable in a bowler hat and glasses. I think he looks pretty cool.
Poor old Channing Tatum.
Hey, I think he's going to be awesome because he's playing one of the American Kingsmen, a statesman, I think is what they're called.
Oh, statesman, that's a clever name for them. Mm-hmm. Well, let's jump into our homework section.
This week, each one of you has a homework assignment. You're going to go out, you're going to start a fight with a total stranger. You're going to start a fight, and you're going to lose.
So, Trilbee, Ferris Buellers Day Off. What did you think?
Yes.
Oh, spoilers.
Yeah, but there's not really a lot.
30 years old. It's fine.
And there's not really much to spoil, is there? Yeah. Matthew Broderick, popular kid at school, he decides to take the day off. He tricks his head teacher, his principal. He tricks his parents into thinking he's ill. And then he just basically goes around Chicago for the day with some friends. That's basically the plot. I hear that John Hughes, who wrote and directed it, he wrote and directed a lot of 80s classics like The Breakfast Club. He did Home Alone, Pretty in Pink, Some Kind of Wonderful Weird Science. It's weird because I keep on watching random 80s films a week. Like 2 weeks ago, I watched Breakfast Club for the first time. I watched Weird Science last week, and now I watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, next week I'm going to watch Top Gun because that's another 30th anniversary. But for Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he wrote this in a week, and you can kind of tell. Like, I'm not using that as a derogatory way. I'm not insulting the film. It's just very, what's the phrase? Laissez-faire. It's sort of just chilled back and relaxed, and it's a fun time. It was a fun movie. I did have a good time watching it, and it's very of the time. It's the mid-80s. It's like halfway through it's halfway through the Reagan era, so it's got that sort of just be free, do whatever you want, and like as life moves fast, if you don't stop to look around once in a while, you may miss it. And it also I forgot that the post-credit scene in the film was basically what Deadpool was ripping off.
Yeah,
I forgot all about that. And watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off as a guy in his almost mid-20s it's interesting because I've seen episodes of Simpsons and Family Guy and so many like of these contemporary cartoon adult shows and stuff, and they rip off Ferris Bueller so much or pay homage to it. There's so much in this film that I was thinking, oh, that's what Family Guy was ripping off. That's what The Simpsons did. Like, it's amazing how much pop culture stuff like Ferris Bueller has given.
It's weird when you sort of learn what a reference is backwards like that. That happened with me when I saw The Godfather. There's all these scenes, and I'm like, oh, that's what all these other stuff was parodying.
Yeah. There's that scene where one of his friends, his friend Cameron, they're in an art museum, and he's just staring at that portrait, and he just focuses on that little girl. And I first saw that scene in Family Guy. It was in Family Guy when Stewie's got a bucket list because he thinks he's going to die. So he goes to a museum and he just stares at that picture and the same music's playing. And I was just thinking, it's like just a random Family Guy thing, but no, it's from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It was amazing.
Were they sort of taking a day off in the episode?
Oh, they might as well. no, I can't remember. I think the writing staff did because it was like a 2-minute joke. But
They're just like, let's just reference something. That's easy
Exactly,
to making a joke.
yeah, like Conway Twitty, just do 5 minutes to that, whatever. But yeah,
I'll make him an offer he can't refuse. See, I just did it. Wasn't funny, was it? Take a lesson, Family Guy.
Yeah, Family Guy, you used to be cool. Have you seen the Deadpool Honest trailer? It's like
Ryan. That was actually Ryan Reynolds voicing that.
It was. Deadpool appeared in his own Honest trailer.
That's amazing.
So with the humor of a Family Guy episode. What series? Season 4. Yeah, okay, that's fair. And yeah, Ferris Bueller, to go back to Deadpool, he does break the fourth wall a lot. He talks to the camera.
Yeah.
There were just some great moments where he doesn't say anything. He just looks knowingly at the camera during certain key moments. And I think it's just... Oddly enough, Matthew Broderick is overplaying this character and underplaying him at the same time.
Yeah.
And he's a character of very different tones and like contrasting outlooks, because you want to punch him in the face, but you also really want to respect him. Because at the end of the day, he is just bunking off school, but we're meant to root for the principal, who is just trying to do his job. Like, obviously,
well, he's going a bit beyond the Call of Duty. He's breaking into people's houses, smashing pot plants over dogs' heads.
Yeah, that was brutal. But yeah, he is doing stuff he really shouldn't do.
Downloading child pornography. Oh no, that's the actor in real life. Yeah, sorry.
Oh! I had to bring that up. Oh gosh. And I didn't realise until watching the movie that Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing is in this movie as Ferris Bueller's sister.
Yeah.
And I actually think she was one of the weakest parts of the film. She wasn't really acting very well. Like when she discovers the principal in her home, and she lets out that really weird scream and run. It's like, well, what are you doing? Was that really the best take you got? I know you wrote the script in a week, but you could have spent longer to film it, right?
Yeah. Like, well, if we're going to overanalyze everything, I think like the point of it is like Ferris Bueller's like, yeah, I'm going to have fun and all that, and like the principal, of course, is like, I'm going to ruin his life, and it's basically he doesn't want him to have fun because he never has fun, and his sister is basically the same.
Yeah.
He's out for but I think she was supposed to be like a counterpoint because she like gets over it by the end because she makes out with Charlie Sheen. So she's like, no,
Charlie Sheen just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, God.
How accurate is that character that he plays, though? What are you here for? Drugs.
It was just like having... Obviously, never seeing this movie before, and all of a sudden, Charlie Sheen appears as like a juvenile delinquent who's been done in for drugs. It's like, yeah, this is a case of life imitating art, isn't it?
Exactly.
But it's hard not to just get caught up in Ferris Bueller's Day Off and have a really good time. Like when they go to the Chicago parade and they start, and everyone in the whole street is just singing "Twist and Shout."
Yeah.
It's just a really great sequence, and it just makes you have a really fun time with it.
And a dance sequence breaks out on the steps for no reason.
And you think the dad's going to see, but he just joins in as well from his office. There were so many times when, like, it's one of those things, it's kind of like a hyper-reality movie. It doesn't take place in the real world.
Right, yeah.
And everything's just been bumped up a little bit. Like, for example, when he's running home and he's trying to race his sister home in the car. And that's also something that Family Guy did that I didn't realise what they were parodying. And they do it, like, word for word as well. Like, Ferris Bueller's running, he's got to get home. He runs past these two sunbathing women who don't acknowledge him. And then he just runs back, he's like, hey, Ferris Bueller, hey. And then shakes their hand.
That's right, yeah.
He's running home and he runs past his dad's car. And his dad doesn't notice it.
If I'm driving down and there's someone running like right next to my car and my window's open, I'm going to notice if that's someone I know.
Well, Ferris is just a little bit in front of him, so he only sees like the back of his head as he's running.
Yeah.
And he doesn't quite clock it, and then he just keeps on driving along.
It's like you can't tell from the clothing. He wears pretty distinctive clothing.
He
There's
does.
not
Leather
too many
jacket.
people walking down the street dressed like Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, when he's when he's trying to be the what's his name, the Sausage King of Chicago.
Yeah.
So what does he look like? Leather jacket, devastatingly handsome. Like he's got a
Tiger
distinctive
print
look.
vest, white shoes. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a
Spinning
distinctive
a key on a chain in a circle.
But I think one of the surprising things about this movie was Alan Ruck as Cameron, because he's
great,
really
isn't he?
funny.
He's
He's
so
really
good.
good. The scene when they're in the back of the car and he sees his dad in the car next to them. And
Look over there.
and then Ferris's girlfriend just like pretends to just be in the back of the car alone and flirts with him.
I guess she hasn't met Ferris's dad yet, I guess.
or maybe that they know about it. But either way, it was just he's so over the top that it kind of comes full circle and becomes redeeming.
Yeah.
Like when he basically goes into a coma for a few hours towards the end of the film. When he thinks he's going to be caught because he's so worried about his dad, and they've been joyriding the car, and he just goes into a existential coma for a few hours where he just thinks about his life. And are we going spoilers?
Yeah, of course we're going.
The car. I had no idea that was going to happen, but it's set up so well.
Even when he's kicking it, and you see it starting to fall off the thing.
But when he's kicking it and it starts to fall off the thing, I was expecting it to just fall off and just collapse or something. I forgot that the brick was on the reverse pedal and it was still there. And watching it back, it's obvious that's going to happen because you just hear the revving of the motor just as an underscore for the entire scene. Yeah. So the tension's rising.
You get used to it in the background that you tuned it out and you forget that the tires are moving. Yeah, exactly.
And he kicks it. It goes backwards. Launches out of the window into the ravine.
Crashes down.
And there's the point of view shot from Cameron's perspective when he's slowly walking towards the window and looks down at the smoking wreck that used to be his dad's vintage car. It's so well done. It's a great comic set piece.
Yeah.
And I think what makes it kind of redeeming and what makes Ferris a really redeeming character, because he is kind of a bad kid. Yeah. But he offers instantly to take full responsibility for damaging the car. And it's up to Cameron to decide that no, he's going to take the blame and he's going to face his dad. I am disappointed that we never saw the outcome of that. So the movie ends without any confrontation between Cameron and his dad, which I think is I'm assuming because we never saw it, he threw him in the ravine with the car. Cameron.
Do you
does
think
not
we
make
need
it out
it though?
the story.
I think because some people with the friendship between Cameron and Ferris, they're like, oh, Ferris is a terrible friend. He basically ruined his friend's life. Blah blah. I don't think that's the case because, when you go back and watch it, that whole day he did that whole day for Cameron. Because he's got that bit where he's talking, one of the times where he's talking to the camera, and he's like, "We're not going to have much time together," and he's still sort of stuck in fear of his parents and all this. So the whole reason he did that day was sort of trying to get him to sort of open up and overcome his fears and all that, and it did.
Yeah, Cameron's really the one who actually undergoes a change or an arc over the course of the film, apart from Ferris's sister, but that really only happened once she met Charlie Sheen for a few minutes.
Once she gets that HIV tiger blood, yeah.
Yeah, I think that spending a few minutes with Charlie Sheen would change anybody's life, really.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not necessarily for the best, but either way,
it would certainly change their life, no doubt about that.
Yeah, you wouldn't quite be the same person anymore. But yeah, Cameron is the one who really gets the arc over the course of the film, and Ferris is trying to change him for the better and make him loosen up, and because it feels like he's maybe in an abusive relationship with his dad, not necessarily a physical one, but like a mental one. He really just brings him down all the time and makes him feel really inadequate. Yeah. And him taking responsibility at the end is a really important moment. We just never see if he followed up on it. We never see that altercation between him and his dad, which I think really, we don't necessarily have to have seen an entire debate with his dad. I think is that little bit of closure would have worked out a little bit better. At least that's what I think. I don't think it ruins the film or anything. It's just when the credits are rolling and Rooney is picked up on the school bus It just makes you think, aren't there more important things we could maybe be looking at right now apart from him eating a gummy bear? It's such an
But you get to hear that great song.
oh yeah. It's such an awkward scene. And there's like that young girl on the bus. It's like, this is what a bus smells like.
Yeah.
When I got there, it's been in my pocket, so it's nice and warm. It's like, what? What? What are we watching? These are the credits.
I guess, but I wonder, because there's like a number of times where, like, see, all of that is timed with the music, and I was watching it through and I was like, I wonder if they edit it so that it goes together with the music, but a lot of the time it isn't, so I was like, I wonder if they played the music while they were there so that the Ed Rooney guy can do movements in line with it. Like, there was even one time where he puts on his sunnies and he flips them up and then flips them down again in one shot, all with the music. So they must have been playing the music there so he could time it just right. Otherwise, that's one hell of a coincidence.
Yeah, that's probably how they did it, because I can't imagine that scene like having any other musical backdrop to it. It just makes the moment, really.
The use of like all the audio in that is like really good though. Like, they spent a lot of time. Like, even the bit where Cameron's in bed at the start and he's like, I'm sick, and he's like, when Cameron was in Egypt's land, let my Cameron go. And you hear this chorus singing with him.
Yeah.
Like, little things like that I think are really good.
But one thing that I've just been reminded of is it really comes down to Ferris's sister, where I think the movie doesn't really work. Because early on, when Ferris is in bed pretending to be really ill, he's got the clammy hands and the temperature and everything. And what his sister walks in when his parents are checking up on him, and he like winks at her, like, "Yeah, you know that I'm faking this. Just don't tell him. You know what I'm doing." And then when she comes back home later on in the day and realizes this really elaborate thing he's got in his room, just like the mannequin and the trophy, which is set up to the door, and the recorder and the doorbell and everything, really elaborate. And then it's kind of like a precursor to Home Alone, which John Hughes did a couple of years later.
He loves his booby traps, John Hughes. He always puts them in everything.
Yeah, and making grown-ups just have a generally terrible day. Then she walks into the room, and she's like, I knew it! It's like, you already knew it. You knew it literally at the beginning of the day.
That's
you
true.
knew he was faking it. It's just stuff like that. I think that you probably could have cut her entirely from the film, and you really wouldn't have lost much. Like, I'm just looking at the behind-the-scenes stuff, and apparently the first cut of the film was nearly 3 hours long. And they just really had to edit it a lot and just really hone it down. Like, you don't feel the length. It feels like it just whizzes by. It's a really fun time. It just feels like you maybe could have even cut down a little bit more and just got rid of.
They probably had them doing more in the city, because they don't really do that much. I mean, they go to a restaurant, then they go to an art gallery, and then they go to the park thing and they sing Twist and Shout.
To go to the top of that building.
Oh, baseball. They go to a baseball game too.
Oh yeah, and he just misses them on the TV.
Yeah.
like what's the score? 0-0. Who's winning?
The Bears. The guy goes.
The Bears.
There's some good lines though, like when like the sister at the start, when the parents are like, he doesn't feel well, and she goes, yeah, good one. Dry that one out, and you could fertilize the lawn. I was like, that's a great line. Or where Ferris Bueller goes, pardon my French, but Cameron is so tight, if you shoved a lump of coal up his ass, in 2 weeks you'd have a diamond.
Yes. Yeah, that was really good. It's really funny. I like it when Rooney goes into the local club where all the kids are, and he thinks that he sees Ferris. Says, he says something in French. It's like, translation, your butt is mine. And then a woman turns around, takes a straw out of her drink and spits at him, and just turns back around again. He is a character where, who plays him? It's Jeffrey Jones. And like a year later he'd be in Beetlejuice, and he put on a lot more weight, like between Ferris Bueller and Beetlejuice, so clearly having that really terrible day really aged him. But you see him, because he's not a terrible guy. Like, clearly he's been pushed over the edge and he starts doing these pretty bad things because Ferris has skipped school 9 times.
Justifiably. Like, you can kind of understand. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt too much, but you can sort of understand where he's coming from, where his sister's coming from. Of course, you'd end up hating Ferris because everything always works out for him. He always breaks the rules and gets away with it. Of course, you'd be driven to the point where you're like, I've had enough of this guy. So you can kind of understand. Sorry, go on. But
Jeffrey Jones plays it in such a way. He's just so... I don't even have the... It kind of defies description where he's just... You just want to hate him. like he's just the ultimate authority figure who you just want to rebel against. He is indicative of that whole mindset, the whole 80s rebellious idea that you've got to fight against. He personifies it. I don't quite know if there's a word for it, but it kind of transcends it transcends the character and becomes an entity into its own right.
Yeah.
He's really good in this film, and you just really want to root against him. Yeah, and then when he's just there limping down the road,
killjoy. Like, really, he's really what he wants to do is he doesn't want to take down Ferris Bueller because he's playing hooky. He's one of those people that doesn't like that other people are having fun.
Yeah.
You know.
And the phone conversation when Ferris is trying to get his girlfriend out of school, and they have Cameron on the phone, like saying, "See here, you gotta beat my daughter outside." And they just disagreeing with each other, and it's so great.
On second thought, we don't have time to talk right now. We'll get together soon and we'll have lunch.
And Ferris's plans are a little bit too perfect, but it is like suspension of disbelief. He's probably been planning this for a while.
Like you said, he's like a hyper exaggerated. Like, a lot of his schemes, none of them would work in real life, but in the movies, of course, it works. He's kind of like a superhero.
Yeah, and it's terrific how he has Cameron ring up Rooney to say, there's been like a death in this girl's family, so she needs to leave, and he thinks it's Ferris, and then Ferris rings up the other phone, and then the penny drops, and then he thinks, "Oh God!"
It has that dramatic music.
Yeah, but it turns out that it is Ferris was playing them the entire time. It's really well done, and the sequence in the restaurant where they pretend that they're ringing the police, and they use the exact same voice again. Like, "Oh, this is the Chicago police, yeah." It's a really tight screenplay, and I think the performances are great. I think because Ferris, you do want to hate him, but you just can't help but love him. And it's a really fine balance, and Matthew Broderick does really, really well.
Yeah.
I think that she doesn't get a lot to do, but Sloane Peterson, who is the girlfriend, can't remember who plays her, but she does pretty well as well. I think it's just a really good. I can't say it's a must-see film, but if you need a pick-me-up, then Ferris Bueller's Day Off is really just one of the big go-to films. Even if you just watch that parade scene and just see everybody dancing, that's probably just that scene alone would just get you in a really good mood.
Yeah. Another line I like is when the girl, when she kicks Ed Rooney in the face when he breaks into the house, and again, it's one of those things that just doesn't happen in this universe. Like, she should recognize that's a principal, especially considering she actually went to the principal's office earlier, and she's like, "Where's Ed Rooney?" And she's like, "Oh, she's out." Like, she goes there all the time because the woman's like, "Who's bothering you this time?" So it's weird that she doesn't recognize the principal. But anyway, she kicks him in the face.
Me and my girlfriend watched this film, and she said that as well. Like, how does she not know that that's the principal?
Yeah, I guess she just freaked out or something, but I like how after she kicks him in the face and she speaks on the speaker to downstairs, she's like, "Whoever's still in the house, I've called the police. Also, I've got my father's gun and I've got a scorching case of herpes."
Yeah. Yeah. She doesn't want to be violated or killed, so she makes sure she covers everything.
But I like the whole, for me, like, the main thing of the story is the whole thing of, like, Ferris helping his friend Cameron out with, a whole, like, having a good day out like that can really sort of change your life. Because it reminded me of, a friend of mine said that, like, a guy that he knew that he grew up with, like, he sort of did like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off with like this friend of his. He had a friend that was like Cameron, who sort of lived in this one town till like his whole life, never sort of left the town. He was about 25 years old, and he just worked the same job, and then he'd come home and just smoke bongs all day and all this sort of stuff. And my friend sort of like took him, and they went to like Bali and Thailand and Japan and India, and they like went all around. And like when they got back, it kind of changed this guy's life. Like he changed his job, he moved, he stopped smoking pot, because he just kind of thought, wow, there's so much out there and there's so much more to the world. And yeah, so I thought of that when I thought of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So I think Ferris Bueller's right. You know, if you don't stop to look around once in a while, you can miss stuff.
Yeah, like he's got one great.
Said, I can't remember.
He's got one great speech where Cameron's comatose, and he's talking to the camera and says Cameron's never been in love. Like he'll just marry the first girl he lays, and she's going to treat him badly because what she'll have given him is what has built up his entire mind, his entire life around, and she won't respect him because you can't respect somebody who kisses your ass. It just doesn't work.
He's totally right.
He makes sense.
He's totally
he does make sense.
Yeah. And that's good because like you get the sense at the end of it that he's going to stand up to his parents. So same thing, like when he does get a girlfriend, he's not going to let the girlfriend push him around, and so good, you know. He got Ferris Bueller helped him out in the end, even though he did destroy his father's car, which probably cost millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, and then when you get inflation, it's just blimey, that's going to be an expensive motor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Ferris's justification for stealing the car, like when Cameron's like, it's this car, he spent years making this car, it's his love, his passion, it's his fault he didn't lock the garage.
It is his love, it is his passion, it is his fault he didn't lock the garage. Yeah, he probably should lock the garage if there's a Ferrari in there. Yeah, but the only other thing I noticed was because Ed Rooney, he wants to catch Ferris Bueller, and he mentions to the parents that I've got no reservation holding him back another year. So then later, when he's talking to the camera, like about Cameron and all that, after he says that thing you mentioned, but then he says like, you know, Sloane's a bigger problem though. She's still got another year of school. How do I deal with that? So I thought, well, actually, if he did get held back a year, that actually kind of would have been good because then he'd have an extra year with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And there'd be still some sort of consequence for some of the stuff that went through, but he can like turn it into a good thing, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. But hey, who needs that when you've got a heartfelt goodbye at the end, and then he runs to really catchy music. He has the slow motion trampoline jump. Dun 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 wow. It's
There's another thing too. Like at that point, the sister's already made out with Charlie Sheen, so she's over it. But then when she sees him in the street, she's still like, I'm going to try to race you back to that house.
Yeah, like, that's the thing, because a lot of this stuff about this character... a lot of this stuff about this character just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't think it's Jennifer Grey's fault. Like, it's just the character she's been given with is very inconsistent, and the final, like, her final moment of the film where she saves Ferris... Like, that thought process is entirely off screen. You never see why she changes her mind. She's just peeking through the window when he's getting told off, and then just decides to save him. Like, that's really the main issue with the film, I think. But it's still really enjoyable. And now that I've seen the film, I just really want to change my answering machine message to, who is it? Oh, I'm sorry. I can't come to the phone right now. I'm afraid in my weakened condition, I could fall over as I answer the phone and subject myself to further school absences. I appreciate your concern for my well-being. Have a nice day. That's probably how we should have opened the podcast.
Yeah,
like, oh, it's Trilbee.
I might stick that audio in. There we go.
Okay.
So there we have it. There's Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So
next week's 80s movie, Top Gun.
What would you rate it out of 10?
I'm going to go for an 8 or a 9. Just really everything revolving around the sister just doesn't quite work. And I think that we really should have had a bit more closure on Cameron's character. But still, it's a really fun time, a really enjoyable film, and I'm surprised that I've not seen it earlier. And the impact that it's had on pop culture, I guess the fourth wall breaking to this very day in Deadpool, it still works, it still holds up, it's timeless, even though it's very '80s. It's very Reagan era. But it's still very fun, really good, and definitely you can see why it's become one of John Hughes's most iconic films.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I give it about an 8 out of 10 as well. And rewatching it, I could definitely see how. Yeah, you're right. That is sort of a product of those times, like just sort of that optimism and that. I'm not saying that you wouldn't get teenagers optimistic like that, but they just wouldn't be optimistic in the same kind of way. I don't know. I don't think I'm making any sense. But yeah, I can definitely see that was something from the 80s and not so much nowadays. But yeah, definitely, if you haven't checked it out, anyone out there, it's on Netflix in pretty much every country. So check it out.
And now, our feature presentation.
Okay, so X-Men Days of Future Past. Now, for some of you might be like, hey, didn't you put up a thing on the channel's like Facebook page showing the breakdown of topics, and this was going to be an Alfred Hitchcock episode? Yes, it was. Unfortunately, those episodes require like proper planning and a bit of research from all of us to cover all the movies.
The man's made 50 films. We've got time to watch them all.
Yeah. And we're all kind of busy, as we mentioned, so we figured, why don't we do this leading into to X-Men Apocalypse? But we still will do Alfred Hitchcock. We're going to do more of those directors episodes where we cover directors or we cover genres. But right now, X-Men Days of Future Past. So we'll go... Hang on, excuse me.
Bless you, that was loud.
I was suppressing
I heard you backing away from the microphone, and then you did it, and it was still super loud. That's how powerful it was. Is that your mutant superpower? Just astonishing sneezes? My name is Sneezy. You're one of the 7 dwarfs.
Yeah, it's a difficult superpower, because,
This is my curse, my blessing.
I have to walk around with a handful of dust so that I can make myself sneeze when I need to. Yeah.
Imagine you fighting the Sandman. Oh my god. Oh, I can imagine the two-page splash panels in the comics now, just going all the way across the page. Oh my goodness.
Splash panel is appropriate. Yes. So yes, we are going to go spoiler and non-spoiler with Days of Future Past, even though most people have probably seen it. So I guess we should just do our overall thoughts, I guess.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Well, my overall thoughts is like when I first saw this, I was like, I remember I walked out the cinema and I was like, that was really good, the way they wove everything together and all that. And I was like, maybe I was wrong about Bryan Singer. But then I did some research. I was like, actually, a lot of that was Matthew Vaughn, who got kicked off and all that. But anyway, but now having watched it again, I was like, yeah, it's good. Yeah. What do you think? How did you enjoy it?
Well, long-time viewers of mine will know that X-Men Days of Future Past was my second favourite film of 2014.
Oh, really?
It only lost out to Frank, which is the movie starring Michael Fassbender, where he plays a man with a papier-mâché head and he does a lot of singing. So my 2 favourite films of 2014 had Michael Fassbender wearing strange headgear, which it seems to be a weird running theme. But I thought
like
that
Tom Hardy with the masks.
Yes, exactly. The man, he's found his career path. He's sticking with it. It's a minimum requirement for the scripts he's got now. But for Days of Future Past, I think it's because I watched the original version, of course, when it came out, and the version that I watched for this podcast was the extended Rogue cut, which has got more of Anna Paquin's Rogue. So I can't accurately say whether or not the original one still holds up, but it's a darn good film. I think it's really good. I think it still does hold up, and I still do stand by my original assessment of it. I think that I don't know how much Matthew Vaughn influenced the production overall. Hopefully you could tell us a bit about that later. But I think that...
Well, I think it's more my crazy conspiracy theories than any facts.
Maybe it is. So. But after what happened with X-Men First Class and then X-Men Apocalypse, I think it's clear that maybe Bryan Singer isn't the the be-all and end-all of this franchise then. Because X-Men Apocalypse hasn't been getting great reviews. Like, it's not terrible. It's not flat-out bombing with critics or anything. But maybe Matthew Vaughn is the best fit for this franchise instead of Bryan Singer. But either way, I think that the time travel element works really well. I think that in the Rogue cut especially, there are a lot more interesting parallels with regards to the supporting cast members. They get a lot more to do. Magneto, his role is a lot more fleshed out. I think that Hugh Jackman, it's great that he's a big influence on the film, but he's not the main character.
Yeah, he's literally thrown out of the final battle.
Which I thought was just incredible. Like, he's just swatted away. Like, because he's got the bone claws when he goes to the past, so you think, oh, Magneto can't get him, he's going to stab Magneto in the face, and then Magneto still just effortlessly destroys him. Yeah. I thought that was really refreshing.
Because normally it's like, because he has the adamantium skeleton, he can control him, but I guess in that version he doesn't have that yet, and he still manages to take him out.
Exactly. I think that James McAvoy, in this movie, apart from maybe Heath Ledger's Joker, I think he gives the best performance in a comic book movie. And really? I think James McAvoy is astounding in this film. I think he's really great.
Actually, I'd agree. He really is. Like, trying to do a depressed Xavier is not easy, but he does a really good job of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'd agree with that. I think it is really
I am correct, sir. And X-Men First Class, I think, was probably First Class is the best thing to happen to this franchise, because I like The Last Stand. I think it's okay. But then Origins Wolverine comes along and just completely destroys everybody's love for the franchise. And then
Can I just say, because I can imagine the comments saying, you actually liked X-Men Last Stand? I actually didn't hate X-Men Last Stand either.
It's all right. There's a lot of dumb stuff, but how can you hate
lots of dumb stuff? But I liked it because I was like, they actually made choices where I was like, wow, that's really bold. They actually killed Xavier. So like, I liked it because they did stuff you didn't expect. This movie was supposed to explain why Xavier came back from the dead. No, it didn't.
Nope. No, it didn't. But didn't do that either. I was expecting it to, and it never did.
Well, there's the end credit scene in 3 where earlier in the movie he's like, for example, class, here's a guy who's brain dead. We could transport someone's consciousness into this guy's body. Is that ethical, though? And then at the end, you see that guy wakes up and he speaks with Xavier's voice. So I was like, so Xavier is still alive, but he shouldn't be in his body, right? He should be in someone else's body?
Yeah, because the Wolverine, which is the standalone Wolverine film that came out a year before Days of Future Past, the post-credits scene just had Patrick Stewart there. Like, he's not swapped bodies or anything. He's just there.
It's just him and Magneto just show up.
Yeah, exactly. You show up at an airport. But like The Last Stand, when it's so it's so like badly telegraphed. Like, hey, there's this thing. I hope I don't do it. Then he just looks at the camera, Ferris Bueller style, and just winks. Like, I may have already done it. Is it ethical? I don't know. Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine just destroyed many people's love for the franchise, and it was one of the lowest grossing films.
Yeah.
And then First Class comes out. It didn't do great financially because people were just still getting over The Last Stand and X-Men Origins Wolverine. But then franchise goodwill picked up again, and First Class is such a great prequel, and McAvoy and Fassbender are terrific.
It breathed new life totally into the franchise. They got rid of the stupid black leather, and they actually gave them costumes that look very similar to, like, not exactly the same as in the comics, obviously, but they have the blue and they have the yellow, but it still looks cool. It's like got a whole new cast. The whole thing of setting it in different times for each movie, that was all Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah,
like Michael Fassbender and like all the cast, the younger cast, that was all Matthew Vaughn. And it's like, Mr. Sunday Movies brought this up. He's like, Days of Future Past, it works, but it works because First Class works. It's built off that. You know, like it's got this sort of goodbye thing to like Snyder's universe, like where with that bit with Wolverine waking up at the end and all that. But yeah, it's built off First Class, and Bryan Singer didn't really make that. So
yeah, because with the first X-Men film, that was made 14 years before X-Men Days of Future Past, and you had this weird situation with the franchise where you had X-Men First Class, where they introduced this new cast of characters playing these younger versions of these roles, but you also had Hugh Jackman's Wolverine seemingly getting younger as he gets, because like every new film he just gets buffer, he just looks younger. Like, I want that virgin blood that Hugh Jackman's been drinking, whatever that is. And so you had this weird situation where you had the old and the new cast. So this was the perfect opportunity to do a crossover movie like this, and with X-Men you go to the comics, you go to the Days of Future Past storyline.
Yeah, totally.
So what were you going to say? I interrupted.
No, I was just going to say...
I talked over you, I apologise.
No, it's all right. I do it with you all the time, so it's fine. It's payback. Payback Ed Rooney style. No, it's like the bit with like Hugh Jackman. He said that when he with the first X-Men movie, when he got the role as Wolverine, he had an image of his head of what he wants Wolverine to look like, and he said it took all the time until that scene in Days of Future Past that he finally got his body looking the way that he originally wanted it to look, which is this muscle-bound Hulk, basically. And apparently for that scene where he wakes up, he did what a lot of bodybuilders do, where they don't drink any liquids for like a whole day leading up to it, so that all the fluid in the tissue is gone, so the skin holds tighter to the muscles. Bodybuilders do that before a show.
I've just been drinking too many fluids. That's why I'm not this muscly, ripply, lovely looking specimen.
So
put my cup of tea down now and just never touch it.
Also, actually, going back to Ferris Bueller, you know, if you do want to fake a sick day, that's actually a good way to fake a sick day. Is you don't drink any like liquids before you go to bed, and then when you get up in the morning, you don't drink any liquids. And then, like, when you like go to your parents or you go into work or whatever, you'll be pale and your lips will be like real red. And you can be like, "Oh, I don't feel good." And they can be like, "Oh, get out of here," you know. Then you go home and have a drink and you have your Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's how you fake a sickness. That's.
I was thinking, if that was me, I wouldn't drink for the day, and then I'd wake up looking like Wolverine, and then instead of going to school, they'd just like donate me to science. Like, how has this happened? How has our son turned into Wolverine?
But in that scene where Hugh Jackman, he wakes up, because he hadn't drunk any liquids to like make his muscles show off, apparently he had like really pounding headache and he was dizzy and all this sort of stuff. So just goes to show what an actor he is, because he pulled off that scene even though he felt like dying.
Australia's national treasure.
Yeah, we love you, Hugh Jackman. You're awesome.
We love you, Hugh. Come on the podcast sometime. You're welcome.
So what do you think about... actually, we're still in non-spoilers, aren't we? I'll save that for later. Why don't we just jump into spoilers?
Yeah, let's go for it. We've given our initial thoughts and brief assessments.
Yeah, so spoilers officially. What did you think about, like, because there were, going back to that thing we mentioned before about the Vaughn versus Singer thing, like, there were differences in Vaughn's script that Bryan Singer changed, and I think in Bryan Singer changing them, he actually created more problems in it.
Okay.
Like, for number one, in Vaughn's original script is Magneto definitely does kill JFK. He definitely does.
Yeah.
And Bryan Singer was like, oh, we can't have him, who's supposed to be kind of a sympathetic character, killing one of the most beloved presidents of all time. But it doesn't make any sense story-wise, because, like, think about it. In X-Men First Class, they're on that beach. The Soviets and the Americans shoot all those rockets and missiles at them, and he stops them, Magneto, and sends them back. So the Americans shot as well. So even JFK must have given the okay for them to take out the mutants on the beach. Now in Days of Future Past, they say JFK was a mutant as well. Why would he shoot at his own people if he's a mutant? He wouldn't have done it. You know? So it makes no sense from that. But also, that if Magneto killed JFK, lines up with Magneto's character, because that's something he would do. He'd be like, you tried to kill us all on the beach, I'm going to assassinate the president now as payback.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's all about. So the fact that he's like, oh no, I was trying to save him, it doesn't work for many different ways. Or if you are going to, like in that bit where he's explaining, I curved the bullet because I was trying to move it out of the way, but they got to me before I could divert it properly. It's like, if you're going to say he's a mutant, he should be like, I was trying to save him because he was one of us. Why do you think they were shooting at him? He could have said something like that, but he didn't. So I think that breaks it. And also the second change made was in Matthew Vaughn's original script, Quicksilver's role is actually a young Juggernaut. So
Okay.
instead of him super speeding around, he was just going to run through all the walls to get to Magneto and then run back out again. And although the Quicksilver scene is great, it's probably one of the best scenes in the movie, it is kind of a movie-breaking
It is
era.
a bit.
Because he's so powerful, Quicksilver, that he could just fix everything immediately. Even the bit at the very end where Magneto's like holding the president hostage and Quicksilver's watching it on TV, he could run all the way to Washington and, rip the helmet off Magneto and run back if he wanted to. So it's like, having Juggernaut in that place would have made more sense from a story perspective. But the reason I think that, because apparently Bryan Singer, well, not apparently, he did, he came on as director only 3 months before they started filming, right? Like, he had nothing to do with it until 3 months. It was all set to be Matthew Vaughn directing, everything, until 3 months, then they just brought Singer back in. So how much could he have really influenced that movie in those 3 months before filming? Probably not that much, which means if this movie's good, it's because Matthew Vaughn had already put it together. And people say, oh, well, X-Men First Class was originally supposed to be Bryan Singer, and they swapped the director for Matthew Vaughn only a month or two before. And it's like, yeah, but Vaughn still wrote the script for that, so he was still building it from day one. So that's why I think this was more Vaughn's baby than Singer's baby, and the fact that the changes that Singer made actually broke the movie more kind of goes along with what I'm saying, that we don't need Singer in this universe. So I'm looking forward to see X-Men Apocalypse, whether he can make a good movie on his own or whether he was just sort of riding off Matthew Vaughn's
that makes sense.
Good work in the first two movies. Anyway, I've been talking too long.
No. You bring up legit points. Like, I think that if they had revealed that Magneto was the one to kill JFK, it would have made the road cut, what they do to Magneto in the film, it would have made a lot more sense. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So it's not to muddle the discussion.
The road cut, so I don't know.
It's basically, there's like a few moments, like there's another F-bomb or two. There's a bit more swearing and a couple more moments of violence, and then all of a sudden in the third act, things really start changing. But up until I'll save that bit for later. But yeah, I think that Matthew Vaughn is he's a terrific director, and the scenario that you're a terrific director and writer, and the scenario you brought up about him, Matthew Vaughn. Getting names mixed up. Bryan Singer coming in practically at the last minute for a film production. It sounds like what happened to The Martian, where Drew Goddard wrote the script and he was going to direct it, and then all of a sudden Ridley Scott comes in and he hardly influences the story at all, and then it turns out to be an awesome film. Yeah, like that was basically Drew Goddard's baby. And then
but that's
Ridley
the movie
Scott
everyone's like, hey, Ridley Scott, he's still got it. He's back. No, he's not.
Exactly.
This was someone else's work.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
But thankfully, Drew Goddard will be doing a Sinister Six movie if Sony can get some more traction with Spider-Man again, maybe. Because Drew Goddard, he left Daredevil, the Netflix series, to do Sinister Six.
Oh, wow.
And then
really?
That never happened. That's depressing.
Poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. And Drew Goddard, come on, you and your millions of dollars, you poor guy.
I will say though, in this movie, I do like all the future stuff where they're battling the Sentinels. There's two big Sentinel battles, especially the first one. I really like how they thought through all the different characters' powers when they're fighting the Sentinels. Not only how those powers could be used, but also how they could kind of combine their powers to different things. Like there's Bishop, the black guy with the dreadlocks and the gun, where like one of them kind of like charges him with electricity to power his gun, and there's Blink that opens up the portals.
Oh, the stuff they do with the portals.
That's great.
Is like portal combat. It's really inventive, and what they do with, I think, isn't it Colossus at the end? She opens up the portal. Colossus jumps into it, falls from the sky to get momentum, and then she opens up another portal so that he can do a fully charged ground level punch or something.
And he just like flies into the Sentinel from that. That was clever. Or like, there's a bit where the Sentinel runs and charges to like shove a spike through her, and she throws up a portal that redirects it in a different way. And like, but then it turns around and manages to stab back through and gets her.
Those Sentinels, grr.
Damn those Sentinels! Yeah, they were pretty cool though. I have to admit, they were good.
But I liked the futuristic, crazy one that was like inspired by like the power set is taken from Mystique. In a sense,
which makes no sense because
like it makes less sense in the Rogue cut. I keep on bringing up the Rogue cut, but it makes less sense there.
Well, I know the Rogue cut obviously has Rogue, but I was thinking when I was watching it, I was like, they use Mystique's DNA to give the Sentinels the ability to match any powers, and I was like, but that's not her power. Her power is to look like someone, but she doesn't gain their powers. Rogue does. Like, if they got Rogue's blood and used that for the Sentinels, that'd make perfect sense, because that's literally her power, is she takes other people's.
See, that's why she's out of... That's why Rogue is out of the picture until like nearer the end of the Rogue. I'll just talk about what happens in it. Yeah, basically, when Kitty, who got these time travel powers out of nowhere,
never explained.
Never explained, but it kind of has to happen for the movie to work.
It's like the Tony Stark bit. If anyone has any unexplained powers that you just want to suddenly reveal, do it now.
And Kitty turns up, like, I have the power to time travel, walk through franchises as well, not just walls. What happens is that Kitty gets stabbed like by Wolverine.
Yeah.
Like when he's freaking out at one point. And what happens is that she's bleeding out and they feel like, oh, we're going to lose her. We need to get somebody else to replace her. And Xavier's like, nobody else has her powers. And Bobby, Iceman, says like Rogue can take her powers. And what they've done is that the Sentinels have taken Rogue like far away so that Xavier can't sense her or communicate with her telepathically.
Okay.
And she's locked away in a prison where the Sentinels are experimenting on her because they want to use her power to take the powers from other mutants so that the Sentinels can do it. But in the Rogue cut, it's inferred that they don't have it yet, that they haven't got that ability. They're still experimenting on Rogue, which is why she's still alive.
Wait, so... Yeah, so that does make less sense, like you said.
Yeah,
wait, so they're trying to say they don't have the ability to match powers, but they do.
Basically, even though she's still alive and they're still experimenting on her. So what happens is that Magneto and Bobby, they have a rescue mission where they have to go in and save Rogue. And this sequence of them going in and saving Rogue is intercut with Magneto, Michael Fassbender, going in and breaking his helmet out. And what happens, it's intercut with that, so it's about Magneto, the man he used to be, as this rebellious figure who is using his powers for evil, or he's going down a dark path, and the Magneto of the future who has put aside the differences with him, the other X-Men, and is helping them out, because the sequence of him taking the helmet out of the glass is intercut with Magneto releasing Rogue's straps as she's like on this operating table. And I think it's really well done. And there's even a moment in the Rogue cut where younger Magneto looks in the cabinet where the helmet is and sees the coin that he used to kill Kevin Bacon. And I think I'm sure his character had a name, but as Kevin Bacon. It's actually a really well done moment. And then the rest of the film, they break Rogue out. Bobby is killed by the Sentinels. He dies during the rescue mission, which is why he's only in like 2 or 3 shots for the rest of the film in the original cut.
They just stuck him back in later,
Yeah, they stuck him in and killed him later. Magneto and Rogue come back.
It'd be funny if they're like, let's just fix that with a dubbed in line. We're just in between talking, you hear in the background, where's Bobby? Oh, he died.
Well, what happens is that because Kitty's still helping Wolverine in the past, and then they go in and then she looks at Rogue like, where's Bobby? And she says, I'm sorry, and then they swap places, and then Kitty just spends the rest of the movie like literally under the table where Wolverine is just bleeding out.
Wow.
And then that's really the rest of the film. It's just another breakout sequence. It does very little for the plot except killing off Bobby. It does more to sort of enhance and draw parallels to the past and present events, or the past and future events.
Magneto,
Yeah, it's more visually interesting than it is thematically or in terms of the story. But I'm still glad I saw the Rogue cut. And there's even a couple of there's even a new post-credit scene as well, where Trask is in Magneto's prison. He's got like a hobo beard, and he's just laying on the bed. And then that is just the post-credit scene.
Oh wow!
Which is I was expecting like the camera goes into Magneto's cell. Trask is there, and he's like, "What are you doing? The road cuts over. Go home."
Chicka.
Deadpool
walks in.
It is just Deadpool poking his head and chicka. Like that would be another tease for the next Fox movie.
That's right.
But that's basically the Rogue cut. There are a couple of
It seems
moments.
like that fleshes out Magneto's character a bit, that he is officially a good guy in the future, because rewatching it, I was like, at the bit where they're going to send Wolverine back, and he's like, Xavier's like, you got to find me, blah, blah, blah. And then Magneto's like, you're going to need me too. We'll have to be working together. But when you watch it, they probably didn't really need Magneto. Like they could have found her without him. They didn't really. So I was like, did old Magneto just sort of say that because he thought, I know past Xavier might not get the job done, so if they release past me as well, past me will get the job done. Indicating that he's not really a fully good guy anymore. He's still kind of a jerk.
But he was probably thinking, I know that past me has got like a 5-picture deal with Fox, so yeah, you better go get him. Like it's really break the fourth wall. But,
I've forgotten his name, but what's the name of the actor who plays Magneto and Gandalf and
Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen, that's it, yeah.
How
funny
this
was
is a
it?
massive tangent, but he was so funny at the Eurovision Song Contest the other night. He did a little skit with
he was
Derek
there, was
Jacobi.
he?
But he wasn't actually there, but if you were watching the Eurovision Song Contest in the UK, they had like a little skit, because those two are in a show together where they play, like, they're a gay couple, and they're like really like old theatre thespian actors or something.
Yeah.
And they live with each other. And they're just watching the Eurovision Song Contest going, it feels like we've been here for 2 hours. How long has it been? 5 minutes. Oh. It was like that. That was all I had to add in terms of Ian McKellen at the Eurovision. But
as you were describing that, I was picturing them as like the old guys from the Muppets.
That was essentially their role.
Yes.
And if there ever was a Muppets live action, there have been live action Muppet films, but if the Muppets were people, it would be Derek Jacobi and Ian McKellen, or maybe just Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart. Just do that.
Well, I was just going to say, like in a lot of the promotional stuff, Ian McKellen, he said a number of times, because he's a gay gentleman, but he said a number of times, like actually so many times it kind of became awkward, where he's like, yeah, I really enjoyed the movie because now I can pretend that I once used to look like Michael Fassbender. And he kept saying, he's a very handsome man. It's like, okay, settle down, mate.
He's not wrong. Yeah. I bet Ian McKellen has seen Shame a few times where Fassbender does full frontal.
I bet he's seen all of it.
He's seen all of Fassbender. like when Hugh Jackman as Wolverine goes back in time and he's in the body of his younger self. Do you think if Ian McKellen as Magneto did that, like he goes to Michael Fassbender's body, but it's Ian McKellen's head, and he just looks in the mirror for a few minutes, like, very nice, me. And then just, like, goes about whatever the rest of it, like, whatever he has to do.
Yeah, I can't even imagine Ian McKellen as a young man. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find pictures of him, but I kind of imagine he's like Frau from Austin Powers. You go back 30 years, and he looks exactly the same.
Like, what's the name of the... I just can't stop thinking about this Muppets thing. What are they called? Waldorf and Stanley?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I can imagine them just like watching X-Men Apocalypse going, that was an apocalypse, all right. Yeah, it killed the franchise. Or or X-Men Days of Future Past at the end.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I'm glad they rebooted the franchise because I can't remember any of those films. Oh, I hate X-Men Wolverine.
Stewart or McAvoy, these timelines are so confusing.
Oh. Deadpool. It didn't have Wolverine. It didn't have any of the X-Men. I loved it.
I'll tell you what I did like though. I think the Sentinels were. I liked the way that the Sentinels were a real game changer, not just in that they absorb powers and all that sort of stuff, but it's like, Xavier is so powerful, but he's completely useless in the future against the Sentinels. Totally useless. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool dynamic. And like, even when young Wolverine is fighting the first generation of Sentinels with his bone claws, I'm like, again, he's totally useless against these things. He doesn't have his adamantium claws yet. So so it was really cool to see the two characters, which pretty much always they're pretty much the only ones that matter. And in this one, against the Sentinels, they were both the only ones that don't matter. They can't do anything against these.
Well, Magneto still gets some awesome badass moments with the Sentinel fights at the end when he's throwing the jet at them and Storm fires a lightning bolt at it and it just explodes and takes down one of the Sentinels temporarily. They still get some. It just allows other mutants an opportunity to do something, which has been an issue with the pre-First Class X-Men films, where it was basically the Wolverine show and friends.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, those films have got a very different priority to, say, the cartoon series or the comics, where it is very much an ensemble film.
Yeah.
But with the X-Men franchise, it has been Wolverine as the star, and these are just some incidental characters plus Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen.
Yeah, that's one thing that I did like about this, though, is that they were okay with sort of setting him aside to let other characters shine, because there's so many other characters that do need to shine. But also, even the Wolverine that we do get, he's really quite different to all the other Wolverines. All the other Wolverines have been the angry, hothead Wolverine. This one is where he's kind of more of the father figure for the younger Xavier. And I really liked seeing that version of Wolverine, where he's still got the anger inside him, but it's handled at this point, and he can just he's like mellowed with his age.
Yeah, I still think that the immature Wolverine from the 90s cartoon series is one of the best, where he rips off the hood of the car, tell Scott I made him a convertible. I'd love to see Hugh Jackman do a bit like that. Why are our favourite versions of the X-Men just the really cynical people, it's the really cynical Wardorf and Stanley, Magneto and Xavier? I'm looking forward to Apocalypse. Yeah, the end of the world can't come soon enough. Go!
It's probably because we're so cynical about Bryan Singer. We're heckling him like the old guys from the Muppets.
Yeah. But I still really do love this film, though. I think that it's knowingly trying to repair the franchise after X-Men 3, which I liked, but I thought it was okay, but people seem to universally hate it across the board. And then you've got Wolverine, and then it's kind of like, I don't want those terrible future movies. I don't want your future. It's kind of knowingly meta in trying to repair everything, and then you've got the really nice ending.
That's the thing, is it resets the timeline to fix everything, but you don't really need to, because First Class already did reset the timeline.
Yeah, well, it sort of caps the original trilogy, and also it kind of ends their story, and there is stuff to put in the middle if they wanted to, like in X-Men Apocalypse. But I think after Apocalypse and this new Wolverine film, I think you've really just got to reboot the whole thing. Because the timeline, for all intents and purposes, is just screwed up. I don't
want them to reboot. I want them to keep going and doing the thing where they go from the 70s and then the 80s in the next movie and then the 90s. I want to see the X-Men in Ferris Bueller times of 80s.
Okay, yeah, 80s.
Or I want to see
who's the president?
Wolverine
Ronald Reagan, the actor. He's president.
Don't you want to see Xavier talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the 90s? Wouldn't that be great?
Cowabunga. Oh god. But no, I think that this franchise, the
Jennifer
Bryan
Lawrence
Singer...
listening to Marilyn Manson, you know.
oh no, she's mopey enough. Oh God. I no disrespect to Marilyn Manson, but that's not what you listen to for a pick-me-up.
That's why I figured she'd listen to that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like she's not great in this film. Like she was really good in X-Men First Class. She's okay here, and then you just watch the trailers for X-Men Apocalypse, and she's like, "You're not students. You're X-Men. Yeah. I'm here to lead the X-Men." It's like, come on, you probably got paid at least $10 million to be in this. At least act like you give a damn.
You know, the problem with her character as Mystique is, if she's not a bad guy or bad girl, then there's nothing else for her to do but be that kid of, like, she's basically being like the spoiled kid rebelling against her parents in this. She's like, oh, I have to come home. I don't want to. It's like, if you want to keep her as kind of a Magneto where she's kind of good but kind of bad, or, well, she's kind of just a straight up good girl now, so you got to find something else for her to do. Yeah. Maybe they should have just gone full villain. That might have been better.
Yeah, I think that the way they do tie in the fact that the Sentinels were made from, like, Mystique's powers kind of makes sense in regards to, oh, that means that we can travel back in time and stop Mystique, as opposed to if they did it with Rogue fully. Like, they would be going back to a time when Rogue was, like, barely a twinkle in her father's eye. So it kind of makes sense that they do tie it in with Mystique like that. But I still think they could have been a better way to do it, to give them a reason to go back in time and prevent the birth of the Sentinels from Trask. I don't know, but it makes it sound like I hate the film. But no, I just had a really awesome time with it, because I think that the action is probably the best it's been in the entire franchise. Like the Sentinel fights, and there's also just the really great moments where in the past where Mystique jumps out the window and she gets shot in the leg. And then Magneto goes down onto the street and starts dragging her across the floor from the bullets that's in her leg. Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah. He's a real psycho, isn't he? He could just turn on a dime and say, "Sorry, I have to kill you. It's for the good of the people."
Yeah.
And you'd be like, basically. What?
Fassbender, no.
Yeah, he could just, like, apparently according to this one, he's like, I'm going to save JFK, but I'm going to prove I didn't kill JFK by killing Richard Nixon. Yeah, that's a good plan. Another reason why you should have killed JFK.
If they think I didn't kill one president, if I kill another, that will make me innocent. Because, as we all know, 2 wrongs make a right. Three rights make a circle. So if if 3 or 4 rights
make a circle.
If I just keep killing, I'll be okay. and that's how we got Ian McKellen, Magneto.
Here's a question. In Michael Fassbender, by the end of the movie for the showdown, he takes over control of the first generation Sentinels. How exactly did he do that? Because
don't think about it.
I can't help it. I already have thought about it.
Yeah, because he gets the train tracks. He puts the metal in the Sentinels, and I can understand him physically controlling them.
Yeah, he could puppet them with that.
But in terms of hacking into their targeting and no.
Yeah.
No.
And he's giving them orders like, do what you were made for. It's like, they shouldn't know what that means. Like, sticking metal in them is not going to change the programming. So, I guess that's something you don't think about.
Nope. Don't think about it. You're better off. Oh, I just remembered something else in the Rogue cut, is that there is like a couple of scenes where Mystique destroys Cerebro so that they can't track her down in the past. And she's got a little, like, romance with Beast, where they expand on the relationship from First Class.
Okay.
I forgot that wasn't in the original film. And it actually works really well, and it does do a lot to redeem Mystique's character in this film, and it gives Beast a bit more to do. And there's the awesome line at the end with Beast where he's talking to Wolverine. He says, "In the future, do I make it? No." And he just looks like, "What? Why do you drop it gently?" And then Wolverine says, "No, but we can still change the future." In the Rogue cut, that happens much earlier on in the film. Like, they're in Xavier's mansion, and Wolverine's in bed smoking a cigar, and Beast comes in like, "Hey, I've done some studies. Those things can give you cancer," and they have like a little back and forth.
Yeah.
And then he says, "I know I shouldn't ask, because I might change the future, but in the future, do I make it?" And Wolverine's like, "No," and then Beast says, "Oh." Okay. Then he just shuts the door and leaves. It's much funnier in the road cut because it's not like redeemed by no, but we can change the future. We can still fix it. He just says nope, and then Beast just awkwardly closes the door and leaves into his cigar. It's really funny. It's
that's much better.
In the road cut, we've got a Scarlet Witch cameo.
Oh, really?
Because towards the end of the film, when Quicksilver's watching it on TV and he's got his little baby sister in front of him, we meet her when Wolverine meets Quicksilver, because she's like playing with toys, and she's like, "Hey, I'm a princess," and Wolverine's like, "Well, I don't care, whatever, little kid," and that's basically what happens to her in the road cut.
Okay, so that kid was supposed to be Scarlet Witch because Bryan Singer came out and he's like, "Oh no, there's a deleted line where there's his sister upstairs that we don't see." So he was obviously lying. No, it was supposed to be that little girl is supposed to be Scarlet Witch. Yeah. Well,
when you've got Quicksilver's sister, regardless of whether or not she has powers or anything, people are just going to say, "Yeah, that's Wanda Maximoff," or "That's Scarlet Witch," or whatever. So she doesn't display any powers or anything. Like, she's playing with toys. I wasn't expecting her to do at the end of Age of Ultron, where she picks up the toys and just destroys them. I wasn't expecting anything like that, but that's just her little appearance in the road cut. And Nixon does an F-bomb.
Really?
In the movie. Yeah, he's watching footage of the mutants and he's like, I won't swear, but he's just like, he swears in response.
But what does he, like, how does he say it? I can't even imagine Nixon.
I got told off the last time I swore on the podcast. But it is basically just just an F-bomb, like in like shock, as he's watching mutants just destroy stuff. So, but like Bryan Singer was very open. Bryan Singer was very open in the fact that we got rid of that line because we would have been rated R with it.
You know who I hate in this movie? Storm.
Who?
Storm.
She's not. She's not terrible.
Halle Berry, I do not like her at all in this part.
See, on paper, the casting made sense, like in the year 2000.
Right.
Like, but seeing her come back 14 years later, and it's clear she's miscast in this role, but they've got to bring her back because it ties in the original franchise. I'm looking forward to what's her name does in X-Men Apocalypse. I'm just going to get her name.
The chick from 12 Years a Slave.
Chick with the afro.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that too, because like Halle Berry, I don't think she ever really had any interest in understanding that character or putting any effort into that character. She's
to
just
be fair,
whatever, another paycheck.
There wasn't much character-wise for Storm in the first. She was like Cyclops.
Not in the first.
She's
movies.
Significant in the comics, and I'm sure there's some great potential ideas and concepts you can go with.
They took out all the interesting stuff about that character. She's supposed to be like an African for one thing. So I mean, there is a deleted line where she's talking to Xavier in X-Men Last Stand, where she mentions her village in Africa. She's supposed to be like sort of like a princess from Africa, and like she was like everyone loved her there because she controlled the weather for her village and all that sort of stuff. And she's a nudist as well.
Okay.
Obviously, they cut that out.
What's Storm?
But yeah, they took away everything that would have made Storm interesting and put Halle Berry in there, who is just like a mannequin.
Yeah.
She just kind of stands there and wears the costume. It's
in Apocalypse, she's played by Alexandra Shipp. And she was in Straight Outta Compton, not 12 Years a Slave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, unless that's what you got made the mistake with. I don't know.
It must be a rumor, because I heard the girl in 12 Years a Slave that asks that Michael Fassbender is, always like abusing and that, because she was rumored to be going to be getting Storm's job for a while. Maybe they swapped her out now. So okay.
Well. But it's Alexandra Shipp, and she's got the awesome Storm afro in Apocalypse.
Yeah.
But she did an interview recently this week saying how she'd love to see a Storm and Black Panther movie, because in the comics those two are an item.
Ah.
And like she becomes the queen of Wakanda.
That'd be
So
really good, actually.
that would be. And Alexandra Shipp's like, even if they don't use my version of Storm, if they recast her, I don't care. I just want to see that movie.
Well, I take it then in Civil War, that wasn't supposed to be Storm, who was kind of like Black Panther's bodyguard. Remember there's that moment where she goes up to Black Widow and is like, get out of the way or I'll move you. And he's like, well, that'd be interesting to see. That wasn't Storm, I guess.
I'm guessing not. I don't know who that was, but I'm assuming she's just a walking teaser for Black Panther, which apparently Michael B. Jordan has joined the cast of.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah. I was going to get that in the news story, but I didn't have time.
Yeah, they're saying that he could be a villain, which I look forward to seeing. Either way, Days of Future Past. I would love a scene where the Kingsmen just come in and just wreck house. Like Colin Firth just comes in and destroys all the Sentinels, right, to Freebird. Then the X-Men are like, what do we even do? Why don't we recruit that guy? What are we doing?
That's right.
Either way.
I think one of the most touching moments in the film, though, is the bit where old and young Xavier have that sort of telepathic conversation via Wolverine's brain. That's probably the best bit, I reckon. Don't you think?
Out of context, that almost sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. I was thinking that. I was just saying it. I was like, this is really convoluted, but
through Wolverine's brain.
Have a telepathic conversation via Wolverine's brain.
If you're just joining us on the podcast, comics are weird. But yeah, it is a great scene, and those two actors are superb together. And there's just such an intensity to it, and like James McAvoy's bringing the intensity, and Patrick Stewart is sort of trying to calm him down and give him hope. And I think it's probably one of the defining moments of not just this movie, but possibly the entire X-Men franchise. And I think what's always been interesting about this franchise is that while Hugh Jackman's been the focus, the most interesting part has always been the Xavier and Eric relationship, Magneto and Xavier. It's their dual philosophies that really drive the themes of not just the comics, but just the entire idea and the premise of X-Men. And I think the moments with them in this film are just superb. Like there's the scene where Magneto's been injured and he's basically saying goodbye to his friend, and he says, all those years wasted just fighting each other. And in the end, it came to like the very end when they were about to die until they realized that meant nothing. We could have done so much better. And the idea of the future, this dystopian future where the lines between the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants just means nothing now that they're facing extinction. I think this movie hits that home so well, and I think it's kind of like emotionally and dramatically devastating in a way, and to have it just makes you remember how great the cast and how great the talent is, because X-Men was only a couple of years after Batman and Robin kind of destroyed the comic book subgenre of movies for a few years, and then you get X-Men and you get Hugh Jackman, who was an unknown, but you get these incredible actors like Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, who are highly respected actors, not just box office draws, but they are respected names. And they it's that talent, really, that helps to hold this whole franchise together. The X-Men franchise makes no sense in terms of continuity and story after, 10 films, but it's held together by sheer force of will. Yeah, it's held together by talent and sheer force of will.
And
it's
by pretty cool action scenes, because they can use all these wacky powers,
Damn right they can.
They've got a huge advantage over other superhero movies, is they can just give people powers and they don't need to explain why, because it's like, they're mutants. It's great. You can just do anything.
That was why the X-Men were created in the first place by, was it Stan Lee and Jack Kirby? I think the X-Men were one of the few things they didn't create. It's Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, because they were thinking, well, we can't just get all of these superheroes and give them origin stories every day. Let's just say they're mutants. And that was basically how the X-Men came to be, because they couldn't be bothered to write origin stories. They just thought, how many vats of chemicals can they fall in? They just born like that.
Actually, a lot of the comic book sort of tropes come out of stuff like that are writing tools. Like a lot of superheroes having the no killing rule, that's just a writing tool so they can use the same villain again. They don't have to come up with a new one.
Exactly. Whereas, like, the Spider-Man movies were like, nope, let's kill Dr. Octopus in his first appearance. No, let's kill the Green Goblin. Kill Venom. Let's let Sandman just drift away.
You know, there's that bit where Xavier and Magneto, they're in the plane, and Xavier has that freak out, and he's like, "You abandoned us," and then Magneto like takes over the plane. He's like, "Where were you, Charles? Where were you when our people needed you? We were supposed to protect them." And I thought about it, and for some reason it jumped into my head. I'm like, I hope somebody says that to Luke Skywalker in the next Star Wars Episode 8. Because he's done basically the same thing. Where were you, Luke? Where were you when the First Order was taking over everything? You're sitting here on this island. Why didn't you do something? I really hope somebody calls Luke out on that. Because, he really should be doing more, is all I'm saying.
Somehow, in an X-Men Days of Future Past thing, you still managed to talk about Star Wars.
Yep, I don't know why I made that.
No. That's right. Luke does need to be called out, and that is a terrific scene in the movie. It is once again getting these two cornerstones of this franchise, Xavier and Magneto, and just giving like great two awesome actors together for it. And then all of a sudden you got Jennifer Lawrence, like, "Hi, I am Mystique." It's like, oh, you cast it so well.
Would actually come to think of it, I actually think Magneto might be one of the coolest guys in this movie.
Oh yeah, he's
maybe
awesome.
Even cooler than Wolverine. Remember the bit where when he grabs the gun, he's like, "I'm sorry, Mystique," and he shoots him, and Beast like tackles him, and the gun flies out of his hand, but he controls it still, and he shoots it, and he curves the bullet around Xavier to follow her out through the window. I was like, man, he's so cool. And how when he goes down on the street, all those cops come, and he just sort of casually puts his hand out to the side, and they all just fly back.
Yeah,
like he's really awesome. He's like, "Oh, I'll just drop an entire stadium on your head. It's nothing."
Did you notice that when he lifts up the stadium, he destroys the Mountain Dew sign? Like, no product placement in this plan. Nope. Nope. This plan sponsored by death, not Mountain Dew. But he's able to curve that bullet around Xavier, but not JFK's bullet.
Yeah,
what a surprise.
Again, doesn't make sense. Yeah. What about the bit with? Did you like the whole thing as the Weekly Planet puts it? Professor Xavier, he always gets Professor X'd. They always find a way to take away his power, because if he has it just ruins it. There's no story because he can solve everything immediately. But they did it with the whole drug thing to make him walk, but then it takes away his telepathic powers. I think it worked. I think that was a good device for it.
I think out of context, if you were watching this film,
you see Xavier with a needle in his arm going. You'd be like, what is this about?
And what's interesting is that the year before this film came out, James McAvoy was in a UK independent film called Filth, where he's just drinking, he's on drugs all the time. And I was just thinking, man, James McAvoy, he really didn't quite get out of character for that, did he? he's still from Filth when he shows up on the set for X-Men Days of Future Past. Blimey.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, because out of context, it just seems really weird to have Xavier just all of a sudden, beginning of the film, he's walking around, and I'm trying to place it in context, and it still seems weird. Like, I get it. It kind of makes sense. It's just such a weird starting point for it. It feels like we should have seen him get his legs back maybe halfway through the film. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I would have been fine with him just being in the wheelchair all the time, but still taking that thing to shut the voices out of his head. Because, the whole idea is, he's lost too much. So if he was in the wheelchair as well, that would go along with that, yeah. Yeah, like, in terms of it being a metaphor for his powers and his struggle and everything, it makes sense. Like, it just maybe needed a bit more of a logical push. That's right. It occurred to me, though, watching this, because like we said, that all of the earlier movies were all Wolverine ones. Like, he was the guy that everything centered around. In these new ones, it's kind of like Mystique is that now. Everything sort of centers around Mystique. It's always about her. Yeah, it's because before First Class, she wasn't a big name yet. The Hunger Games came out a few months after, or maybe a year after First Class. So when she became a big name with the Hunger Games, they decided, let's bump up her role. And it's one of the rare examples of just an actress completely shifting the tone of a franchise as opposed to a character naturally doing that.
Yeah. Well, it looks from the trailers, it looks like she's basically running the X-Men now.
Yeah, she is the Cyclops role.
Yeah, she's become Cyclops now.
Even though Cyclops is in the movie.
Looks like Magneto's joined Apocalypse. Yeah, he is in the movie. And Xavier's probably Professor X'd again.
Yeah. And he gets bored.
Yeah.
Which should be awesome. Have you seen Patrick Stewart? I just saw this on my newsfeed. Patrick Stewart put a status on his Facebook talking about the new Wolverine movie and like hashtag worst kept secret, hashtag Xavier. and it's just like a gif of some news reporter or like, I think it's like a comedian or something just doing a shh symbol with his finger. So I think that's basically just him confirming that he's back for Wolverine 3, which is filming right now.
Oh, really? Is this Old Man Logan, that one?
It's hinted to be. I think that they've all but confirmed it.
And that's going to be Hugh Jackman's last one, yeah.
Yeah, like the poster, it just says one last time. So, I think that's going to be his last one. I think once Apocalypse is done, it will depend on how well that does financially, because Days of Future Past was the highest grossing X-Men film until Deadpool. And Deadpool cost literally a fifth of the budget to make. So then when, like, depending on how well Apocalypse does financially, I think we could see a reboot, honestly, after the Wolverine film, because once Hugh Jackman's gone, you have lost all ties to the original X-Men film that started it. So I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, totally. I mean...
And then Ryan Reynolds becomes the new Hugh Jackman, the national treasure who everyone loves to see. Canada's national treasure.
We did have the face of Hugh Jackman pinned on his face under his mask.
Yeah. Deadpool in the next X-Men movie just has a Hugh Jackman mask the entire time.
Well, I heard a rumor though that Hugh Jackman was kind of upset because the Wolverine that's in X-Men Apocalypse that's going to be the new guy who replaces Hugh Jackman after he goes, and apparently Hugh Jackman the rumor is Hugh Jackman was upset about that, which doesn't sound Hugh Jackman-y to me. I don't know if I believe that rumor.
Wait, so is Wolverine in Apocalypse, but he's not played by Hugh Jackman?
That's what I heard. Yeah.
What? Okay.
I know, it doesn't make sense to me either.
Because at the end of the last trailer, they show the bone claws coming. They show the metal claws coming out, but they don't show the body that's attached to the hand.
Yeah.
Oh.
First of all, that was weird, because like, I remember the week, I think last week or something, Trey was like, ooh, there's a big reveal at the end of the trailer, someone who's there. And I was like, oh, who could it possibly be? And it's just Wolverine again. I was like, that's not a reveal. He's been in literally every movie, even Deadpool.
Yeah. Oh, okay. If I'm allowed to swear, I'll bring up a plot hole in Days of Future Past. Because what happens in X-Men First Class? They're looking for mutants, and Xavier and Magneto are looking around, and they find Wolverine at a bar, and they say, "Hey, I'm Eric Lyncher, Charles Xavier. Go
Bueller
yourselves."
Yes.
And then he has to leave. And what happens in Days of Future Past is that Wolverine comes and meets Charles, and he says, "I'm going to say to you what you said to us all those years ago."
Bueller.
Off. And he misquotes him. He misquotes him.
I thought that as well. I'm like, that's not what he said. Even I remember that.
Yeah, even I remember that. That was only a few years ago. But it's so strange that something that... Is it deliberately misquoted? I don't know.
It's like... Yeah, like, why would they... It must have been an accident, because why change it? You know?
It's like in, I think it's in Scream or Scream 1, where they're talking about aliens, and and someone says, everyone, they're quoting it, and they say, "Oh, get away from her, you bitch," and then somebody says, "Actually, it's step away from her," and then the movie just runs with that, and it's like, that's not the quote. You've misquoted aliens.
Yeah. That's weird.
I don't know. It is weird. Okay, I've stopped swearing now. But I'm quoting the movie, so it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, I
still love this film.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
I know that there's a lot to sort of question the logic of, and it's like, obviously, when people say it's a time travel movie, it's not always going to make sense. It's like, you should at least try. But I still think it's really enjoyable, and thematically it's really interesting in order to team up the old cast and the new ones to create something completely different. And I think this is probably the most ambitious X-Men film ever, and I think it's the best X-Men movie. I think it's even better than Deadpool and First Class, but only in terms of what it represents and just how big the production is and how ambitious it is.
Totally, yeah.
I think in terms of the best one that you can just watch from beginning to end with zero context, I think First Class takes it. But in terms of its place in the franchise, I think Days of Future Past is the best X-Men movie.
Yeah, and it was, like, it served as a good, like, final note for the Singer characters, like the bit where Wolverine wakes up and he like walks through the halls and you see old
and
Beast
is
again.
There.
Yeah, who's played by, what's her name?
Frasier.
Frasier again. That's right.
Oh, guys,
with
I
terrible
love that guy.
makeup
What's his
on.
nane?
He looked awful in that.
Oh, yeah.
I guess they didn't
at first I thought it was a special effect, but no. Kelsey Grammer.
That's it, yeah.
Otherwise known as the voice of Sideshow Bob.
Yes. Oh, how I loathe that box.
He gets hit by
I saw that Simpson episode a while back, that's why it's in my head.
He gets hit by the rake.
But yeah, in the trailer for Apocalypse, there's a bit where Quicksilver like says to Magneto, says to Mystique, he's like, "Oh yeah, Magneto, he's my dad. You know, my mom and he." And she's like, "What?" So they're confirming that Magneto is his dad. But
we need to talk about that Quicksilver sequence.
Oh yes, the Quicksilver sequence, which was actually
one of the best music cues.
That was actually parodied in the Angry Birds movie, by the way, which I saw the other day. But I'll save till we'll talk about it another time.
It came out 2 days ago in the UK, and I'm hoping to watch it maybe on Tuesday. I
actually didn't think it was that good, to be honest.
I've heard not terrible things, which is an endorsement for a video game movie. Surprise, it's not terrible. When
I read those BFG quotes, I thought it was kind of the same, like, little kids will love it, but I actually kind of got bored. I almost fell asleep about halfway through. It slumps a lot for the first half an hour, and then it finally figures out what it's doing. But anyway, yeah, we'll get to that. The Quicksilver sequence.
Yes, Quicksilver, just such a great music cue. And it's so clever. And I remember when they announced that he would be in Age of Ultron, and they got Aaron Taylor Johnson, and he had a more of a colourful costume that was kind of comics accurate. And then they showed the Days of Future Past Quicksilver, and he was in this stupid 80s outfit and the goggles, and he just looked terrible. Yeah. But everyone thought, oh, he'll be amazing in Age of Ultron, and he'll wipe the snot out of the 20th Century Fox version. And then the movie comes out, and no one could stop talking about him. Yeah. And it's such a terrific sequence, and the costume works in context. Like, he's got the goggles because, hey, if you're running that fast, you're going to get dirt in your eye. Yeah. You're going to run off and collapse and die. And the sequence it's head and shoulders above anything that they did with the character in Age of Ultron. Yeah. Like, still love Age of Ultron, but that Quicksilver just pales in comparison to the one in this film.
Well, see, now because the one with the X-Men universe is good, they had to kill the Quicksilver over at the Marvel universe. But now that the Scarlet Witch in Marvel,
defeat, isn't it?
but now we can't get a Scarlet Witch in the X-Men universe because the one over at Marvel is actually pretty good. That seems to be the rule.
Yeah, it makes sense. At least they're admitting defeat when they do. Like, oh, we can't top that one. Let's just kill our Quicksilver.
Well, I like the bit where like in the kitchen there, where he's going around giving everyone the wedgies and all that, but the last thing he does is move the bullets. It's like, shouldn't you do that first? He's like, nah, the wedgies are more important. And then he comes and he moves the bullets.
Priorities, man. Priorities.
That's right. But I was going to say, so they're confirming that Quicksilver is Magneto's son, which is interesting because in X-Men Apocalypse, we see Nightcrawler. Now, for the uninitiated, you might recognize Nightcrawler from X-Men 2. He's the blue teleporting guy, the German thing. You remember that guy?
Yeah, played by Jim Cummings.
That's right, yeah. So, but in the comics, Nightcrawler is Mystique's son.
X-Men, so much incest.
Yeah.
It's all in the family.
Well, actually, and you remember in X-Men First Class there was Azazel, who was the teleporter guy, and he was red.
Played by Jason Fleming.
Yes. You're like the living Wikipedia, you know everyone.
See, I only remember that because Jason Fleming is a terrific actor, and he gets nothing to do.
Yeah, that character was like nothing.
Obviously, he gets like a couple of cool moments, but acting-wise, why get Jason Fleming if you're not going to do anything?
Yeah.
Hey, 0 out of 10.
So anyway, the reason I bring all that up is because, so Nightcrawler is Mystique's son, but Azazel is Nightcrawler's father. So now that they're covering that Magneto is having kids, I wonder if they're going to cover that Mystique got together with Azazel and made Nightcrawler.
I feel like just making a spreadsheet on my wall of just all of the mutant babies and the
Family
parents.
Tree going around.
It's going to look like Deadpool's killing map.
Yeah,
like when he's trying to track down Francis.
Yeah,
he's like, okay, so who's sleeping with who? Like, I just stab a knife in it. But as you were explaining that, I was just looking at the cast list for Days of Future Past. Some of these actors have really weird names. Like, Warpath is played by Boo Boo Stewart. Blink is played by Fan Bingbing. Like, obviously, Fan Bingbing is a Chinese actress.
Yeah.
But Fan Bingbing. I don't know. Is that insensitive? Maybe. But ask yourself. Fan Bingbing.
Well, it's like, for some reason you triggered like a joke I remembered from like here at Australian TV every now and then they do like a flashback to like a really old show from like the 60s or something. Okay. And they had to cancel it because there was too many jokes that they make back then that you can't make today. And like one of them is this couple's like, if you would like to reach Mr. Wong and Mr. Zing and Mr. Zahn, you will find them all in the yellow pages. It's like, yeah, that doesn't really work today, that joke. You can't say that.
Nope. I feel so much better now that you've said that.
Yeah,
I don't feel it's terrible now in comparison.
You don't have to worry.
Remember, folks,
it could
always be more racist. Oh gosh, I'm not really racist. Just letting everyone know.
That's right. Well, I guess there's only one other thing to talk about, really, which is Stryker, because he's returning in Apocalypse, the young Stryker guy. What do you think of him? You think he was good?
He didn't really have a lot to do, did he?
No, not really.
I don't remember much of him. I know that the guy who played him, who plays him in this, was going to play the Juggernaut before he was replaced by Quicksilver.
Oh, really?
Josh Hellman, yeah.
Oh, he would have been a good Juggernaut, actually.
And it's so weird that they decide to have the reveal at the end that he's actually Mystique.
That's confusing, isn't it? Because I was like,
it is.
Well, she was imitating him there, but again, why?
It makes sense anyway for Stryker to just want Wolverine's body or something, isn't it? You don't need Mystique to motivate that.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I guess they were trying to go with the thing that she's gone back to what she was doing at the beginning of the movie, which is saving mutants from people. But having her taking on Stryker's form is just unnecessarily complicated. But I was thinking, though, at the end, where Wolverine wakes up in the future and he goes to Patrick Stewart, and Patrick Stewart's like, what's the last thing you remember? And then it flashes back to him in the water. So apparently from this point on, all the movies is really Wolverine remembering what happened.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, so at the end of Apocalypse, it's just Xavier with a storybook. No, not a storybook. It's like, so in X-Men issue 220, we fought Apocalypse. That's how this went. And he's just reading off the comic books. It's like, what was it? I can't remember what issue it was. Okay, so what happened about the time when we all went and travelled in time? Well, Logan, that was in X-Men issue 141 and 142. Let me read it for you in this paperback.
Wolverine's like, we could make a movie out of this. This would be good.
Yeah, get that Usual Suspects guy. He'll do a good job on it, I think. He's good with big ensemble casts. Yeah. So, how did you lose your legs, Professor? Well, let me go all the way back to X-Men 300. So the X-Men sequels now are just Xavier reading X-Men comics to Wolverine to get him caught up to speed.
Yeah. And you know what, that's another thing that doesn't make sense. Because he goes to Wolverine, he's like, what's the last thing you remember? And it's like, but you just read his mind in like 5 seconds. Because, remember Wolverine, he walks in, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And Magneto looks at him, and then he's like, whoa, welcome back. Like, in that second, he must have got all his memories of everything that happened and the whole movie. And he's like, whoa, glad there are no Sentinels around. So he already knows. Why are you asking him, Xavier? You already know.
Because it makes for a cool final moment.
Yeah, because you need that flashback so they can continue.
Yeah. I was kind of amazed that when the movie opens, it's got that X-Men music from the very first film.
Yeah.
I forgot how awesome that music was. Thank you for doing the final note.
Is it as good as...
They're talking about how the next X-Men movie will probably take place in the 90s after Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And they've got to have that theme. Yeah. Like, even if it's just like... It's
really awesome.
Even if it just happens for 30 seconds during one action scene, when, the Brotherhood and the X-Men are running towards each other and they explode in the middle and the logo comes up.
Yeah.
Come on, gotta have it like that.
Or maybe in the Apocalypse scene where the new Wolverine is slicing up all the guards, just have it then. He's just stabbing everyone. That'll work.
Yeah. And just you can't even hear the music because you just hear all of the screaming and the blood splatters.
They've got to do that at some point. Put that theme in somewhere. That'd be great.
Yeah, because it's not just something you do for nostalgia. It's a genuinely great piece of music.
Yeah, and you're right. And especially if they go forward into the 90s, that's when you put it in.
Yeah, and Jubilee is in Apocalypse, so, she came from the animated series, or she was popularized in the animated series.
Oh, really?
So, I can't remember because Harley Quinn in Batman, she started out in the animated series, and then she branched out into the comics. So I think Jubilee did that, or either that or she... had no role in the comics. She was just a no-name walk-on character, and then they made her popular in the animated series. Either way, that's how people know who Jubilee is.
So what do you give... Actually, we already did this, didn't we? You give it 8 or 9 out of 10.
I think having this conversation, I think I'm going to give it 1 out of 10 now.
Yeah!
I just hate it. I hate this movie. Hate everything about it. It's the worst. I still love this film.
I think it's great. I mean, I give it a really hard time, sure, but it is really great. Time travel stories are always really difficult to do, and movies that have tons of characters are always really difficult to do. So there was lots of ways they could have ruined this and messed it up, but they didn't. So hats off to them. It's still a really, really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And always great to see Peter Dinklage getting more and more work. He should be in everything, Peter Dinklage.
He should be, yes. Wasn't he in Angry Birds, which you mentioned earlier?
I can't remember.
I think he played the eagle.
Oh, really?
Might have done. I don't know. Maybe I dreamt it. Maybe it was all a dream, like X-Men Days of Future Past style.
I know that King Pig in Angry Birds had a really familiar voice. I was trying to figure out who that was. Apparently Sean Penn was in it. I don't know who he was, though.
Sean Penn. Okay, yeah, Peter Dinklage plays the Eagle.
Okay.
Who plays the pig? Chief Pig is Billy Eichner.
No.
Billy
I
Eichner.
thought maybe it was Bryan Cranston or something.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Bryan Cranston
doesn't
just plays everybody. But either way, X-Men Days of Future Past, yeah, Dinklage is good, but is only got a small role. And I kind of like how it's maybe hinted at that his the reason he fears mutants is that they are superior to people. And when it comes to him, obviously being a smaller person, he feels inadequate anyway. That's slightly hinted at. It's not preached or anything. It's like when he's made fun of a bit in that Senate hearing.
Yeah.
It's sort of hinted at there, which I thought was an interesting way to take the character, Trask, who is in the comics not portrayed like that.
Yeah, he's not supposed to be little. He's just regular dude.
Yeah, he's just a regular annoying ass.
But I did like how Trask also, he was like, part of the reason he's doing it is because he's like, we're fighting all these wars against the communists, but if we're fighting the mutants, that's like the one thing that all of humanity can actually unite against. And we could actually have a united planet with this common enemy, which he's kind of right. The only thing that really unites people is a common enemy.
And I think that's really interesting in that in the future segments, the Brotherhood and the X-Men have obviously put their differences aside to fight the Sentinels, who now, with that metaphor, are obviously communists. Yeah, the communists, the Sentinels, are the common enemy.
But you know what? But actually, don't they even say that some of the humans do try to help mutants as well, and the Sentinels start targeting normal humans as well? So I guess not only both sides of the mutants join together, now the mutants and a lot of the humans are united as well.
Honestly, I saw the Rogue cut like 2 hours ago, and I can't remember. I can't remember that.
That's
I think it's just so full of information and deleted stuff that I had to pay attention to that it's kind of burnt my brain a bit. I feel like if you opened my brain up, it would be like one of those Sentinels firing their lasers. Like their heads open up and it's just pure fire.
With
that's
that
my
weird
head right
sound that they make when they open their heads.
Yeah, that's my head right now. I'm essentially Sentinel Ghost Rider.
All right.
That'd be pretty cool. A Sentinel taking Ghost Rider's powers. So
that would
he's
be
just
cool,
riding around on a
actually.
motorbike. Sentinel on a
The
bike.
head just starts, turns into a skull and starts burning.
Yeah, but before we wrap up Days of Future Past talk, are there any more thoughts on the future of the series? Like after Deadpool and Apocalypse, do you have any ideas of where they might take it? Because we know they're thinking about the 90s, but
I want to see them move away from this story that they seem to do in all of them, and that they're doing, looks like they're doing again in Apocalypse, which is either a human wants to wipe out all mutants, or a mutant wants to wipe out all humans, and sometimes both in the same thing. It looks like Apocalypse wants to wipe out all humans. Why don't you do something a little bit different? Like there's a story where Magneto creates like an island nation for all the mutants to live on. And there's another one where like he sort of harnesses the gravity of the whole world. I think it's actually the same story. Like, why not pick a different... it doesn't... I know it's about humans and mutants and blah, 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 but you don't have to make every story so specifically about that. Mix it up a little bit. That's what I'm hoping for in the future.
Yeah. I'm not trying to preempt it too much, but I think X-Men Apocalypse is not going to be a massive runaway blockbuster success financially. Like, the reviews haven't been great. I don't think it will break the 700 million threshold for blockbusters. And if it grosses much less than Deadpool, even though it costs 4 or 5 times more to make, 20th Century Fox are going to probably want to go for a much smaller scale with the next X-Men movie, and I think that would be good for it. Because once you go for Apocalypse, you can't really go much bigger than that. So I think you really need to make the conflict more intimate, a bit like First Class, where you could just have, these are the X-Men, and instead of them fighting some massive threat, it's just them going about their day-to-day life where they are hated by humans. They have this conflict, and it's just them maybe battling against humans in a sense, because them trying to they're continually oppressed and beaten down despite them trying to do the right thing, and it's them trying to resist that temptation to just laser eye beam them.
Yeah.
Just something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a way they kind of did that with the Sentinels in Days of Future Past, but I get what you're saying. Not really. Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see just mutants versus humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been talks of a X-Men TV series, and I think a small-scale anthology TV series or something with the X-Men would be a great way to take this franchise, because like after you've done Apocalypse, you can't go much bigger in the movie, so you've got to go smaller. And I think having a low-budget TV series might be good. Like it was good for, like the X-Men Evolution TV series and the X-Men 90s animated series are generally held in high regard, so why not go smaller with a smaller budget film or a TV series?
Totally.
Especially since you're losing Hugh Jackman in one more Wolverine film. So once you've lost Hugh Jackman, you're not really obligated to keep the rest of the cast going. Because I think
and
Patrick Stewart's
he's
be
the only
as well.
remaining thread, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, him and Patrick Stewart, who's going to be in Wolverine 3. So
I am looking forward to Old Man Logan, but yeah, out with the old, in with the new. I'm all in favour of that.
Yeah, like they've been like Simon Kinberg did an interview last week or earlier this week saying how they're going to make the next Wolverine film R-rated, and it's going to be like a Western in terms of its tone. So yeah, I'm thinking Old Man Logan.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so that was Days of Future Past.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Well, this is the listener questions part of the podcast where we take the questions that you guys submit to the Facebook and the Twitter pages and we answer them. And they can be questions about pretty much anything. They don't have to be necessarily about what we talked about. And on the Facebook pages, it is open so that you can put like public posts on there. So you don't have to wait for us to actually ask questions in order to submit them. You can submit them whenever you like. So to kick off, we have Lee Moranti asked, what did dinosaurs taste like? As ironic as it might be, I can actually answer this.
I'm just thinking like cooked leather. That's what I'm thinking. They don't look tasty.
Well, I have actually eaten crocodile, and don't they say crocodiles are the oldest living dinosaurs?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So technically, I do know what dinosaurs taste like.
Let me guess, just like chicken.
Well, it's a mixture of fish and chicken.
Chicken fish.
Yeah.
That's one weird X-Men mutation.
Yeah. Well, I figured the chicken is because everything tastes like chicken, and the fish is maybe because of all the fish it eats.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like a strange blend of fish and chicken where you can sort of taste both. But, you know, if you get the opportunity, I highly recommend you check them out.
Okay, so if a crocodile tastes... Oh, gosh. If a crocodile tastes like what it eats, like fish, if someone ate you, Bandit, would you taste of crocodile? And by proxy, so. You would taste of dinosaur.
Yeah, well, that's why whenever you eat a lamb steak, it tastes like grass.
I don't know what lamb you've been eating. I just open it up, and if you don't cook lamb properly, it's like pink in the middle. But no, this is green. What is this?
But yeah, the crocodile meat, it looks like fish meat, like flake. Like if someone served it up to you, you would just think it's just a regular fish. But then when you bite it, you'd be like, oh, there's something different about this. So yeah, recommend you check it out if you can. Fair enough. That's what dinosaurs taste like, Lee Moranti. Did you have a question you wanted to?
Oh no, you take it. You take it. You go for it.
Okay. Seb PD, regular to the channel. Hello, Seb.
Hello.
How do you think /hope Game of Thrones will end? You don't watch Game of Thrones, do you?
No, but I'm just thinking, just destroy that throne. No one. It's not doing anyone any good. No.
It's made of swords. Who wants to sit on a bunch of swords anyway?
Painful.
Yeah.
I always think one of the dragons that finally shows up like 6 seasons in, I'm thinking that they could, like, one of them, while it's scorching people, just destroys the throne. Then people are like, oh, okay, we're not fighting anything anymore. Like they melt the throne, and it turns out it's just like chocolate covered in tinfoil. It's not even metal. So the chocolate just melts. Then everybody in Westeros just eats the chocolate, and they unite together in peace. This is coming from someone who's watched
that's how Game of Thrones should end.
Yeah, I've watched 3.5 episodes of Game of Thrones, and that's how I'm predicting it ends.
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned before that I think it's going to be because see, some people say in Game of Thrones it's kind of a metaphor for global warming, because what's happening is there's a wall up on the north that's just called the Wall. It's like the Great Wall of China, and north of it is like, all frozen wasteland. There's all these White Walkers, which I suppose you could say they're basically like zombies, and there's an army of them building on the other side of the wall, and they're eventually going to swarm and overtake the wall and take all of Westeros. So kind of the point of Game of Thrones is like everybody's squabbling down in Westeros of like who gets to sit on the throne, who's going to be king, but they don't realize that it really doesn't matter who's going to be king, because once those White Walkers come, it's all over. So they reckon
once they come and melt the chocolate throne.
That's right. But so the idea is supposed to be it's kind of a metaphor for global warming, that we're all squabbling about things that don't really matter. When the ice is going to come, winter is coming, all that sort of stuff. Even though it's global warming, not global freezing. That's weird. But yeah, I think it's going to end with the White Walkers getting ready to like take into Westeros, and then Daenerys is going to show up with her dragons and the Fire Religion, and she's going to fight back the Walkers, and that's how she's going to conquer Westeros. So it'll be fire versus ice. And Game of Thrones, the book, is called The Song of Ice and Fire. So that's how I think it's going to end. But can I just say, not just with Game of Thrones, but with all things related to books, book readers are the worst. Book nerds are the worst.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings or any movie based off a book, it's the book readers that always ruin everything. Like, because I was reviewing like some of the episodes of Game of Thrones, and I was like, the TV show's overtaken the books now, so I'm like, cool, it's safe for me to talk about it, because no one's going to be like, but that's not what happens in the book. No, I still got these bloody book Nazis showing up going, actually, how could you confuse Tywin with Tyrion? Because they sound similar, okay? Book Nazis, just congratulations, you read the book. Do you think that gives you some authority over the story? No, it doesn't. You didn't write it. You're not special, okay? You're a stick in the
Nazis.
mud, and you're ruining everyone's fun. We just want to talk about the show, and you guys have to come along with your snobbish elitism and just ruin everybody's fun. You suck, book Nazis. You're even worse than Lord of the Rings book Nazis. That's
You're worse than
bad.
actual Nazis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too real? Did that get too real?
Why do you think the Nazis burned books? There you go.
Oh, yeah. Because they thought the films were better, so let's burn the books.
Sorry for that rant, but that's why I don't review the show anymore, because I got so sick of all the book Nazis. But, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, here's one. Dylan Berry says, if you could be trapped in a movie universe forever, which would it be and why?
That's tough.
Maybe Star Wars? Maybe Alice in Wonderland?
Because I'm thinking, if you get trapped, like he says the word trapped, which kind of gives it a negative connotation. But in a sense, like if you are in a movie universe, are you like a main character in this universe, or are you just like one of the people who are just on the street nearby? Because like,
let's assume you're an average Joe.
Okay, so like you don't want to be.
If you're in the Marvel universe, you have to put up with Hulk dropping buildings on your head every now and then.
Yeah, and like even if you're in the X-Men universe and you have maybe a slim chance of getting a mutant power, you could be like in the comics they're called dregs. I guess the dregs of society in terms of mutants, where they just get like either just physical mutations that make them deformed, or just useless powers like, oh, my fingernails can go really long. Just useless stuff, so you have to live in the sewer. So you don't want that. I don't want to chance that. Maybe like, I know we talked about it earlier, maybe the Ferris Bueller universe, where people just break into spontaneous dance.
That'd be a good universe, because it's like a fun one. It's like our one, but only good stuff happens.
Yeah, and the stick in the mud to get attacked by dogs.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, so maybe the Ferris Bueller universe, like just like recent films that have come out. So let's say the Jungle Book universe. Yeah, you've got fun talking animals, but Shere Khan's going to eat you.
Yeah.
So
well, it's funny because I'm thinking about it, like, because if you can be a main character, there's lots of different universes you want to be in. But if you're an average Joe, you wouldn't want to be in anyone. Like, in Marvel, you might get crushed by Hulk. In the Matrix, you're plugged into a machine. You're just living a normal life, basically.
In the Terminator, it's the machines.
Yeah, that's right. In Star Wars, you're going to get blown up by a Death Star every now and then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The First Order's going to get you.
Yeah, I think you're right. Ferris Bueller's universe is the only one you really want to live in.
Yeah, because you want something that's like, obviously, you're going to have a good time in it, but you don't want risk of like Hulk smashing you, or the First Order executing you, or Shere Khan eating you. Like, you just want a fun time.
Yeah, you want a universe where you can live a normal life, only good stuff happens, and the world is not in danger of being blown up every 5 seconds.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of other comedies with like a sense of hyper reality to them, and like, yeah, Bruce Almighty, but like, even if you won the lottery, you'd only win like $10 because everybody wins the lottery.
Everyone wins, so the money gets distributed to everyone equally. Yeah,
exactly. And Jim Carrey would ruin the universe. So, and the Mask, like everybody, you'd get killed by Jim Carrey on the street. I know it seems like the cop-out answer, but I think Ferris Bueller is the way to go, because it is a slight hyper-reality where good stuff happens, and if you are an average Joe on the street, you just sing Twist and Shout on the streets of Chicago and have a fun time.
What about something like Ants? Remember the movie Ants? With Sylvester Stallone and Woody Harrelson? Not Woody Harrelson.
Woody Allen.
Woody Allen. Yeah.
Who mixes up Woody Harrelson and Woody Allen?
I'm terrible with names. That's why I suck at reviewing Game of Thrones. I get all the names wrong. But, yeah, like, what about something like that? Like, where you could either just be a worker or a soldier.
I was thinking that I was about to say, like, when you first brought up ants, I was thinking, yeah, you could be one of the humans in ants.
Yeah.
But because in ants, if you're a worker, you just work all day. But if you're a soldier, you get sent and get killed by those termites that shoot acid.
That's true.
Yeah.
So if you could be a worker, that might be okay, because they seem pretty happy. I mean, it's a boring existence, but they seem content. What about if you were in the Jungle Book?
Yeah, but at least... Oh, no, I was just about to say, in Ants, you're at least ruled over by Christopher Walken. Then you brought up Jungle Book, and I thought, oh, no, you're still ruled over by Christopher Walken.
It's like Kevin Bacon's 6 Degrees of Separation. Christopher Walken rules everyone.
That was perfect.
What about the Inception universe? Because if you're an average Joe, you can just always go and live in a dream world every now and then. But apart from that, you can live a normal life. You don't need to worry about the world blowing up.
See, even in the Inception universe, yeah, you can live a normal life, but I don't want to be going to work and, like, I'm just walking down the corridor, then all of a sudden it just starts twisting and Joseph Gordon-Levitt comes in and beats the snot out of me.
Yeah, you'd have to be spinning a dreidel all the time.
Oh, God, maintenance.
You know, whenever anything good happens, you'd be like, is this a dream? I don't know.
Is there a Tarantino, like, universe you could be in?
I guess the Pulp Fiction one seems kind of fun. You can murder people and just seemingly get away with it.
Yeah, yeah. If you're a sociopath or just wanted to kill everybody, then yeah, the Tarantino verse is a good place to go.
But you don't always have to be like. Look, what about in Pulp Fiction? There's the drug dealer guy that gives John Travolta the needle to stick into Uma Thurman's chest. You could just be that guy. Just having interesting conversations about stuff.
Ooh,
There'd be a lot of great conversation in a Quentin Tarantino universe.
Yeah, just no one would shut the hell up, but you wouldn't mind.
You might get shot in the head, but at least you'd have an interesting conversation.
What about, follow me here, the Edward Scissorhands universe? Because seriously, you've got, like, it's all stylized and really colourful, the vehicles are vintage and awesome, and you're an average Joe.
Because we can't be a main character, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You'd just be living in these really colourful places in a really quirky community, and your neighbour can do great hedge trimmings.
Yeah. And it's like this kind of idealised nuclear family sort of situation.
Well, on the top of the hill, you've got the Gothic castle and everything, so there's that if you wanted it, and Vincent Price is up there.
Actually, yeah, that might actually be... do you reckon that'd be better than Ferris Bueller's universe, though?
If you wanted something visually interesting, I guess. I'm just thinking of other Tim Burton stuff, like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory universe, where everything's still a bit stylized and stuff, but the chocolate's really awesome.
Actually, I think you're right. I think I would rather hang out in Edward Scissorhands' universe because I get the feeling that
They'd
within
still
that
party.
universe, even if you left the town, there'd be another wacky town that's different.
Yeah. Can you imagine, like, Tim Burton does Ferris Bueller? Like, what is the Tim Burton Ferris Bueller like?
He'd have very different hair. I know that much.
Just long curly hair, and he's played by Johnny Depp and not Matthew Broderick.
Well, what about if you're an average Joe in Lord of the Rings universe? I guess you'd just be in the Shire, wouldn't you? They're the average Joes.
Yeah, you'd be a hobbit, or you'd just be chilling around Gondor.
You'd just be hanging around the Shire, just smoking weed grass. That's what they do, isn't it?
Yeah, smoking weed grass, like setting off massive fireworks. Every so often a wizard comes along with even bigger fireworks and blows your mind.
You're just sitting there having feasts with dwarfs every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty. But then every so often, like, an evil darkness would come over the land and, like, wipe you out.
Yeah, but the Shire always seems to be okay. Let the others do the fighting. They're the main characters.
You make a persuasive argument.
Even if you are an average Joe and, like, the orcs attack, like in the Helm's Deep battle, the regular people, they were just inside the fortress.
Yeah, but
but then they were drafted. They had to defend the fortress, so no.
Yeah, at least the men and boys did. You want to be a woman in the Tolkien universe? Okay.
Yeah, then you survive. I guess if you're an average Joe elf or an average Joe hobbit in the Lord of the Rings universe, then you're pretty good. You're set.
I'm just thinking, Joe the Hobbit, just average Joe the Hobbit. He's there with his hairy feet, with his weed grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've narrowed it down to Hobbit universe, Edward Scissorhands universe, and Ferris Bueller universe.
You know what, I'm actually going to go with Lord of the Rings.
Okay, I think I'd still go for Edward Scissorhands universe, because either way, like, you might... What if the trolls come in? I'm not just talking about Twitter trolls, I'm talking about actual trolls that can do some damage.
That's true. But I feel like in the Lord of the Rings universe, there's enough pockets of peaceful existence where you can live with the elves or the hobbits or whatever, so you can live a normal life. But you can still go out and have an adventure if you want to.
Yeah, that's a good argument. Yeah.
Plus, you can ride eagles. That's great.
Okay, yeah, Hobbit universe.
If ever you get in any trouble, just an eagle will come and save you.
Get the eagle, yep. Yep,
or a tree, ride a tree, It's
ride a tree. Yeah, okay, and Christopher Walken's not going to kill you.
Yeah, he's not in that. Good.
Yeah, I think no matter what question you ask, like any question, will Christopher Walken kill me? If the answer's no,
that's the
answer. Yeah, that's the one.
To hang out with Gandalf and.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'd go with Lord of the Rings. Who would have thought that would be the one we pick?
Yeah, well, it took a while for us to get there, but I think we got some good answers.
Okay. Okay, Ben Haynes. My local drive-in just opens, and I was wondering if you guys have drive-ins near you and what your thoughts are on them.
Right.
I don't have a drive-in near me now, but where I grew up in, we did have a drive-in nearby. I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was actually kind of cool. It was kind of fun.
Right, we do have one near me. I won't name it because obviously people will then know where I live.
Yeah.
But
you're in
here's
London,
the thing. No. But here's the thing. I've narrowed it down. It's not London. Which outside of the UK, it's either England or London. That's it.
See, everyone's always like London because that's the only. It's like with Australia. When I would go overseas, people are like, "Oh, Sydney." I'm like, no.
No. But everyone knows that Australia is just golf course with pubs.
Yeah,
that's basically
it's
the
a
island.
Desert surrounded by beaches. That's what it is.
Yeah, but for my local drive-in. Right, because I moved here like 2 months ago, and we're told by like one of my girlfriend's relatives that there's a drive-in cinema there. So we thought, oh, awesome, we'll take a look. And it pays it's pretty cheap if you bring more than like 2 people. And we thought, okay, we'll go see something. What are the showings? So we go on the website, and it's showing Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice for like 2 weeks. And we think, okay, if we're going to go to see a drive-in, we want to see something that's good. So we decide to wait. And then, like 3 weeks later, it's still showing Batman. We're on the website, and it's only showing Batman v Superman. So I go on their Facebook page, And people are saying on the Facebook page saying that they go to the drive-in and there's a sign saying it's closed down. But what's happened is that on their website, they're still accepting bookings and they're still accepting payment. They're still taking money from people even though the place is not open. And
that's crooked.
And people have got vouchers and coupons and stuff that they've paid for, but they can't spend them now because the place is closed down. And if you go on their website, they're still allegedly showing Batman v Superman, which is strange because no one in the UK is watching Batman v Superman anymore.
Nobody anywhere is watching Batman v Superman.
Exactly.
Why do you think Civil War made more money in 10 days than Batman v Superman did in the entire time it was in theaters?
Which is insane.
Yeah. Just had to throw that in. Man, that's really crooked. I can't believe they're doing that. See, the guy who's doing it is probably just run off to Spain or something, and he's just run away with all the money.
The thing is that it's been around for years, so it's not like, we set up a drive-in, we let it go for a month, and then we took all the money. It's nothing like that. But it's fair enough if the place is closed down, or apparently if you ring up the office, they say that they're undergoing maintenance or something. But there's nothing on their Facebook page or their Twitter or something that says, "Hey, we're not accepting bookings for a month. We're just refurbishing." Or you need disclosure there. You need to inform your customers on your Facebook page or somewhere what is going on. So that's the only drive-in theatre that is near me. So once I've been to one, I'll let you know how it goes. Wow. But you take your car in and you tune the audio of the movie to your radio frequency in your car, so you get proper good surround sound in your car. So that seems like pretty awesome. But
actually,
yeah. So
let me go off on a bit of a tangent because. Yeah, that scam got me thinking about another scam I heard, also in England for some reason. Apparently, this is what happened. Apparently, it was a zoo somewhere in England, and in this zoo, the parking lot was owned by the council, even though it's the zoo's parking lot. So the council had their guy in the booth there, who, it's $2 to park your car, $5 to park a bus, and the same guy worked in this booth for 15, 20 years, right? And then one day, he's just not there anymore. He just doesn't show up. And the zoo's like, "Oh, that's weird. So-and-so's not there. Well, I guess we better call the council and get a new guy, right?" They call the council and they're like, "Hey, can you send another guy to oversee the parking lot?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Well, you guys own the parking lot, so you have a guy here collecting money. He's been doing it for the last 20 years. They're like, "We don't own the parking lot. You own the parking lot." Uh-oh.
Oh,
this guy had managed to convince them that he was from the council, and he was there every day for 20 years collecting $2 for a car, $5 for a bus, all tax-free. And they worked it out, and he made tons of money, and he just disappeared to Spain. They eventually tracked him down and caught him. But good for him. Good for that guy. That's
I'm not even mad.
Right there.
I'm impressed. God.
Oh, dear. But anyway, getting back to drive-ins.
Yeah, it seems like something that I'd really love to do with a film that I know I'm going to enjoy. A good crowd pleaser, The Thing, or Pulp Fiction, or Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Just a good crowd-pleasing film where you know you're going to go in there for a good time if you're bringing your car and spending the money. And because the drive-in that I wanted to go to nearby, apparently they even did good fatty takeaway food. You could order a pizza and have it delivered to your car. You could order a burger and fries and everything. Yeah. It seemed awesome. And now I'm gutted I can't go.
Well, I'm not sure how it is, but I remember the one that was near where I was. It was you don't pay per person, you pay per car. Yeah. So, if you pack your car with a bunch of friends and you go there, and the one when I saw, you pay I don't know, $15 or whatever it is, but they would have 3 movies. Usually the newest one you want is in the middle. So they'll have one that's a bit old at the start, maybe a few months old. Then they'll have the one you want to see, and then there'll be another one at the end. So it was kind of fun. We actually went a couple of times because it's cheap if you load the car up with people. It's the experience because you're watching it from your car. But also it's kind of like a marathon. You want to see if you can make it all the way to the end of the third movie.
Yeah.
And people bring doonas and all this kind of stuff and fall asleep halfway through, and so it's worth it for the experience, I'd reckon.
Yeah,
But-
so this one is near where I am. It's £20 per vehicle, regardless of occupancy. So that's like $30 or 40 Australian dollars. I think that's about right. But what you could do is just bring like 5 people, bring deck chairs in your trunk or in your boot, and then there you go. You've got your own seating if you don't feel like having 4 or 5 people in one car.
That's right.
But there's something recently that started called hot tub cinemas, hot tub theatres, where a bunch of people in the summer just gather on a roof garden, all get in hot tubs and watch a movie.
Wow.
So apparently that's a thing.
That's a gimmick right there.
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, it's funny because, like, you remember a couple of weeks back, like, me and Trey were arguing about this whole screening room thing and whether it'll kill cinemas off. Yeah, we were arguing and you were just calmly discussing, as is often the case.
Classic movie mania.
But I know Trey mentioned last week, didn't he? For some reason, when he and I are both on the podcast, it always descends into shouting matches. But whenever it's like you and just one or the other of us, it's always kind of like calm and civilized.
It's just really British, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the British politeness. But
yeah. It's like at Eurovision. Just show up, do mediocre, make no impression, and then come back next time.
But it's like we were talking about, like, even if screening room does put cinemas out of business, I thought, I don't know, but like if drive-in cinemas have stuck around this long, but that could just be because it's more of the experience than going to a cinema would be, because you're in your car and all that stuff. Do you reckon, like, assuming that screening room does eventually, put a serious dent in cinemas, do you reckon cinemas will last longer than drive-in theatres have,
I think that so if for some reason screening room really does make a dent in recent current releases and box office goes way down and stuff, what they'll probably have to compensate by doing event screenings. Like a few weeks ago was Alien Day, 25th of August or something. I can't remember, 26th of August. So many places marathoned Alien and Aliens, and presumably they marathoned Aliens because that's how that naming scheme goes. So you probably get event screenings, like, because I wouldn't want to pay £20 for a drive-in theatre and watch tripe like Batman v Superman. I want to go in and watch something I know I'm going to enjoy. So that's why event screenings for iconic films like Ferris Bueller for its 30th anniversary or whatever, it could be the way that multiplexes and cinemas and theatres and stuff help to pick up the slack to show or marathon movies that are like guaranteed crowd pleasers and that would sell out in big crowds. But since we're talking about screening rooms, something that I meant to bring up when we talked about it originally, but I forgot to. How do you prevent piracy on that? Like, because when you get shaky camera footage and pirated stuff, like, obviously you're going to have some shakes, some blur, and audience laughter, and somebody getting up to go to the restroom or whatever when recording it in a cinema. But no, just buy it on Screen Room, plop a HD camera in front of the TV, stay silent for 2 hours, and then you've got as close to HD cut of the film as you can get, really. How do you prevent that from spreading like wildfire for piracy?
Well, I reckon, like, obviously with that, you can't stop. People can always just video the screen of the TV. But I guess the difference is, like, if people... How do I put it? I mean, yeah, it will result in, like you say, people like video like a movie screen anyway, so it'll be the same thing, only just better quality because people can video it in their house. But I guess the difference is, like, if you can... Oh, God, why can't I talk? Like, when people have a legitimate option of how to view things, they don't pirate it because it's usually a better quality... The main one. Like, for example, Ferris Buellers Day Off, that's on Netflix. I could have downloaded that if I want, but why should I download it when I can just stream it immediately off Netflix and I don't have to wait for it to finish downloading?
Yeah.
You know, so, like, why would you want to, download that if
I
you
think
can just
the
get the real
difference...
thing?
I think the difference with that, I think that's a good point, but the difference with that is when it comes to movie screening, they're asking like $50 to rent a film for a weekend, whereas with Netflix, it's like $10 a month for this massive library. It's why iTunes took off, because people would rather pay a tiny bit for a song than get everything for free illegally. I think that they if people will do it legally but pay a little bit, they'll go for that as opposed to do it illegal but save a lot of money. Like you'd save $50 for a weekend rental for a film that's really good quality that you could watch to your heart's content. I think if the screening room, it can't have that $50 option if it wants to combat piracy in that way.
That's true, but you have to also take into account that in every study done on piracy, they say that your typical pirate is someone who's a little bit more tech savvy, because you have to know what you're doing to download pirate a movie, is willing, usually spends more money on media than your average person, and is also willing to pay for stuff rather than pirate if they believe it's going to hurt the market. So something like Screening Room is targeted towards people who are a little bit more tech savvy, because they got to know how to actually hook up the Screening Room thing, and it's targeting at $50 a screening for people who are willing to pay more for stuff. So it's like specifically targeted at exactly the kind of people who normally pirate in the first place.
But if that's the case, then I don't see Screening Room being a big hit that clearly the creators would want it to be. Otherwise, they'd want to go for a much bigger market. I think, like, if it wants to be its own niche thing in the corner for tech savvy people, then have at it. But I don't think that's a good sustainable business model. But that's a different topic entirely. And like we've talked about it before. I'm all for different different models for people to watch movies, as long as the industry as a whole can benefit, as opposed to just big blockbusters being the ones that get rented on Screen Room. I think if you had like indie films or mid-tier films discounted, like watch Midnight Special for $30 for the weekend. Instead of paying $50 for Anomalisa, like you pay $10 and maybe get it in a pack with one or two other indie animated films or something. I think you need these packages and these sorts of discounts, as opposed to just saying, watch Batman v Superman, Jungle Book, Civil War, X-Men Apocalypse, just these big films, because otherwise only one part of the market benefits, and that's the market that's already raking in $500 million per release minimum.
But also I guess, I mean, it's really difficult for us to sort of predict, because like nothing like this has really been done before, so we don't really have a frame of reference as to what effect it will have. But something else we got to take into account is that while $50 for a movie might not be good for individuals, it'd be great for like big families and stuff like that. And also
animated films, I think would do really well. I can imagine Minions would have made like $5 billion as opposed to $1 billion if that had happened, because you'd get families with like 4 or 5 kids who can't afford to spend $100 to go to the movies and get popcorn.
And also parents with young kids, they don't usually go to the movies anyway, so they'd be them watching it on Screening Room. That's money that you otherwise would not get. So I guess it's balancing. Like you might lose some money because you got high quality versions of the pirated movies out there, but you're also getting money that you otherwise wouldn't get from families and parents being able to watch it from the comfort of their own home on opening day. So do those two balance out? Is one going to outweigh another? We don't know, really.
I'll be interested to see how it plays out.
Me too.
I think more for the industry.
I want to get it.
I don't see myself getting it, because I've got a card that I pay $20 a month and I see as many movies as I want. So I don't see.
That's pretty good.
The Cineworld chain in the UK and Odeon have started doing it as well. So it's a good deal. So that I'm already
like
catered for.
Here. They don't have that. They're like, do you want to get a Hoyt's reward card? You have to see 20 movies to get a free one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In America, they've got Movie Pass. But I don't know what they have in Australia.
They don't really have anything here. And even then, when you do get your free movie, there's like all the good movies like have the thing saying no free tickets. So like you see 20 movies to get a free movie, and then you can't see the one you want to see anyway. That reminds me of
The Simpsons when they go to Itchy and Scratchy Land. Like, do you want to buy Itchy and Scratchy dollars? It's like, yeah, do it, $200 worth. And then they go into the park, and all of the shops have got signs saying, "We do not take Itchy and Scratchy dollars." It sounds like that.
Well, I do have a question here. This one's actually directed to Trey, so normally I wouldn't read it, but this question has been seconded by someone else, and it got quite a few thumbs up, so quite a few people want us to ask this. And it says, why does Trey hate Kevin Smith so much? Is it just because of Tusk? And that was Joshua UD said that, and Timothy John said, I second this question.
1 second, I've got Trey on the phone. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't come to the podcast right now. I'm afraid in my weakened condition I could take a nasty spill down the stairs. That's why Trey can't. That's why Trey can't answer the question.
Well, in my conversations with him before, it's like I think it is mostly just because of Tusk. I think before Tusk came along, he just kind of I think he was kind of indifferent to Kevin Smith, maybe vaguely annoyed by him. But Tusk, for some reason, that movie just sent him over the edge, and he just couldn't take it. I myself, when I saw it, had such low expectations to begin with, I didn't really care how horrible it was. And I was like, oh, there's a few good things. But, I mean, there is a lot of Kevin Smith hate out there. Don't you find, Trilbee?
I think there is, because he's sort of one of the new breed 90s filmmakers who... Yeah. It is a love or hate thing with him, and I'm sort of indifferent to him. I think some of his earlier stuff is really good, and I think now that he's making movies for just himself and his friends, he's sort of kind of given up. That there was the trailer for Yoga Hosers this past week,
where it's his daughter and Johnny Depp's daughter are the stars. Yeah,
it looks so bad. Not even as we all know, if you want to make a so bad it's good movie, you can't deliberately make one. The reason The Room is so amazing is because they didn't make it that bad on purpose. The reason Birdemic is amazing is because the director thought he was making a serious, legit horror film.
So Yoga Hosers is supposed to be a so bad it's good, because I know with Tusk,
I can't imagine
he genuinely thought he was making a really good movie there, and I remember listening to his podcast after it came out, and pretty much every review was like, God, this is terrible. And poor old Kevin Smith, he was so upset, because, a lot of directors, they feel like when they get a movie that has personal significance to them, and it doesn't resonate with a lot of the audience or with the critics or whatever, that's often when a lot of directors like Tim Burton self-destruct and they turn into soulless hacks that make terrible movies. He still has retained his spark of creativity, I think, so good for him on that one.
But see, with Yoga Hosers, obviously, how can this be a movie he considers to be a serious film? It's got him dressed up as every single Bratzy, which is a foot-tall Canadian Nazi made of bratwurst. But
is that what those were? I was wondering what those were.
Yeah, they were Nazis made of sausage. And Kevin Smith plays all of them. It got premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. Because they want real prestige films, so they got Yoga Hosers. But they're doing a movie tour where, throughout June, July, and August, Yoga Hosers is going to be premiering at certain comedy clubs and festivals and theaters and stuff. And the poster says, "Kevin Smith is bringing the worst movie ever made to your town." So he's clearly trying to make a terrible movie. The poster says "worst movie." So I think that's what he's trying to do. But he can't reverse engineer that.
Maybe he's just trying to critic-proof his movie, sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if they're like, "God, this was an awful movie," he can be like, "Yeah, well, it's supposed to be, so that means it's good." Kind of like what, like in the honest trailer for Deadpool, where Deadpool's like, "Are you going to make fun of the credits? Because we already did that." In the credits.
But it's like when Kevin Smith made Jersey Girl, which was going to be which was meant to be his big breakout mainstream film with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez and everything, and it was meant the studio who distributed it. I think it was I can't remember who it was. I think it was Miramax or something. They were bigging this up to be the big mainstream comedy hit of the year. And then what happened is that the general public got sick of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez's relationship.
Yeah.
So
you remember Bennifer? They kept talking about Bennifer, and it's like, shut up.
Yeah,
that was the Kardashians before the Kardashians.
Exactly, and that movie came out and kind of bombed with critics, so Kevin Smith, obviously hurt by that, went back and made Clerks 2. So he's clearly...
and he's making Clerks 3.
He is. Like, he's clearly...
They were so convinced Tusk was going to be a hit, they gave him permission for that before the reviews came in.
Yeah, like, he knows what the critics think of his work, and he pays attention to that and he takes it to heart. So if something doesn't work, he often just goes back to the Clerks or Mallrats gravy train.
And look, he does have his solid fan base that sticks with him throughout most of it. And I think, like, at least with Tusk, I remember him saying in his podcast that he was conscious of, kind of like Deadpool, that he spent as little money as possible on it so that even if it underperforms, it's still going to make its money back. Like that movie, like it did still make a profit, not a huge profit, but he structured it so that it wasn't a bomb. So, like, I think that coupled with his pretty solid fan base that stays with him, he's always going to be able to make movies that do turn a modest profit.
Yeah, he'll be able to make like $5 million or less movies for the rest of his life, really.
But
whether or not,
I kind of put him. Sorry, keep going.
No, I've lost my thought really. I just like Yoga Hosers just really took the wind out of my sails really, because remembering that movie is a thing.
I'm looking forward to Moose Jaws, which is Jaws with a moose instead of a shark. That's going to be great.
Can that sustain a movie, or is it just going to be a trailer?
If you can make one about a guy turning into a walrus and about tiny Nazis, then yeah, why not? Moose Jaws. But look, I was going to say, like, I think for me, Kevin Smith, he's one of those guys that I like more for, not for his creative work, but I kind of put him in a category with Max Landis. Like, Max Landis, like, I really like the advice he gives, like, to other writers and that, even though I don't really think he's really made a good movie apart from Chronicle. And I know he blames all the studio chopping up his scripts, which is probably true. I don't know. I've got nothing to do with it. But yeah, like Kevin Smith is in the same category. I like sort of his philosophy on life and the encouragement he gives to other people. Of like, I've mentioned it before, like when we were talking about getting into the film business, how Kevin Smith says, just do it. Just pick up a camera and do it. It obviously worked for him.
Well, because Clerks is like a great success story. Like Kevin Smith, he fresh out of film school, he worked at a retail store, and he was the manager allowed him to film in there at night. So what he did was that he filmed the movie in black and white, so you couldn't tell if it was day or night. And he got his friends to act in it, and he maxed out all of his credit cards to try and make this like $30,000 movie, and he went into debt and he sold all of his stuff, and then the movie gets made and he takes it to a film festival, and then it does really well, and then he's able to pay off his debts and he makes a success of it. It's a great like rags to riches movie making story, and I think that's really where my respect for Kevin Smith kind of begins and ends.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of why I like that about him more than his actual movies.
And he made Dogma, which has a shit demon. Like, that's amazing
that's
film.
right, yeah. That's right, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, that's where my respect for Kevin Smith like ends. Like, Dogma is something that Yoga Hoses, by the looks of it, wishes it could be.
Yeah.
Like, that's just knowingly awesome.
Well, Kevin Smith, he's been directing a few episodes of The Flash recently.
Oh, okay.
They brought him on and he did The Flash, and he goes, I think this might be my new thing, because I'm not very good at movies, but stuff that other people write, it is good. He's like, I can just go in there as a fan and sort of add more to it. So I was like, good for him. I like you, Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, Joshua Udy, I think it mostly is just because of Tusk. That did something to Trey's brain.
It broke his brain. But I think when I've heard Trey talk about Kevin Smith, it has just been about Tusk. So that's really the be-all and end-all for the answer that I could give, really.
We should start like emailing him pictures of the walrus over and over.
So I'm worried that if we email him, we'll just get like an automated response saying, I'm sorry, I can't come to my laptop right now.
Or just a recording of snoring. It's like, he must be asleep. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of really good questions on here, guys. I'll tell you what, we'll make an effort to bank these and go back, or I'll make an effort to bank these, and I'll go back and I'll check any that we missed, because I do feel bad that each week we ask for questions, but then we don't get to all of them. So I know some people probably like, well, why do they keep asking for new ones if they don't cover them all? So next week we won't ask for new ones. We'll just clean up some of these.
Okay.
Do you want to do one more?
Yeah, if you want to pick one.
All right. Did you want to pick one, or you just want me to grab one?
I don't. Okay, well, I found one that seems pretty cool. Okay, right, from Sean Alexander. Favorite post-credit / mid-credit scene not from a Marvel movie. My personal favorite is the sequels from 22 Jump Street for just absolutely wrecking themselves and making a joke of how ridiculous the sequels can get. That's a good answer from Sean. I like that one.
Yeah, and now they're doing the sequel will be a crossover between them and Men in Black.
Men in Black. And,
which is a great idea.
The guy who's directed Alice Through the Looking Glass is directing that. James Bobbin? Josh Bobbin? Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's see. Favorite post-credit scene?
Well, one of my favorites is... it's from that Liam Neeson movie where he fights wolves, The Grey.
There's a credit scene in that?
There is, because what happens is that the movie ends with him about to attack a wolf, and then in a post-credit scene, we see how the outcome was.
Really?
Yeah, we see what happened at the end of that fight in the post-credit scene. He's lying down next to the wolf, and you can see that he is still breathing, but he's just laying down next to it. It's probably I think they're both injured. And it's kind of ambiguous as to whether or not he's been fatally wounded or whether or not he'll make it out. So it's still ambiguous.
Dead? Is the wolf dead, or is it shallow breathing as well?
I think it's shallow breathing, but both of them are kind of out for the count.
Oh, well, that's not even an end credit scene. It doesn't resolve anything. It leaves it just as ambiguous as the actual ending. I hate you now, The Grey. You're a good movie, but now I hate you.
You were a 10 out of 10. Now I hate you.
See, this end credit scene has done a tusk to me. It's just broken my brain.
Oh, God.
No, that was a great movie, though, The Grey. That was really good.
I'm just looking. There's a Wikipedia page, a list of films with post-credit scenes. And you just see the list getting longer and longer. As the years go on, the first post-credit scene, 1978, and then for 10 years there's only 1 or 2 per year, and then you get to 2016 and there's 30 of them. Apparently, yeah, Assassin's Creed apparently has one. It's not even come out, but apparently that's there. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Jack Reach and Never Go Back, The Birth of a Nation, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, Kubo and the Two Strings. Apparently all of these have got post-credit scenes, but what? Not even out yet. Wikipedia, why are you wrong about something for the first time ever? Oh my... Apparently Mother's Day, the movie Mother's Day, has got a post-credit scene. Wow. Who's going to stick around to the credits for that?
Well,
no one.
I love the Terminator Genesis post-credit scene. Can't wait to see how that resolves itself.
Oh... Oh, sorry, Waldorf and Stanley just came back into my room.
I'm actually going to go with that one, you know? I can't think of anything else, so I'm going to go with that as my favourite end credit scene.
Oh, what, Terminator Genesis?
Yes.
Well,
it ties in with Mark Dunville put in a question of who sent Pops back in Terminator Genesis. So, it ties in with that.
I saw the answer to that. That was funny, but not from a Marvel film. But a recent one that was really good was The Jungle Book, where it's not a post-credit thing, but we get a full version of "I Want to Be Like You," sung by Christopher Walken over the credits. That was awesome.
Yeah. You know what would have been cool is in Batman v Superman, that whole sequence where Bruce Wayne is driving through the destruction. He's like, "Get out of the city," and that whole thing.
Yeah,
which in its own was a really good sequence. Imagine if they had that sequence as the end credit scene for Man of Steel. That would have been amazing, wouldn't it? That would have.
It would have. That would have
fixed pretty much everything. Everyone would have been like, "Whoa, I can't wait now."
Yeah, that would have been really cool.
All that complaining about the destruction would have, would have stuck a pin in that early. What could have been?
There is of course, Ferris Bueller and Deadpool.
Oh, yes. There's
their post-credit scenes.
Their post-credit scenes.
Yeah. I was thinking, in terms of post-credit scenes, it's only really comic book movies that can get away with it, because it's sort of become ingrained in audiences to stick around for them. Whereas, like, if you put a post-credit scene at the end of, I don't know,
12 Years
Paul
a Slave.
Blart Mall Cop 3 or 12 Years a Slave, both of those movies are clearly equals. If you put an end credit scene on that, then obviously no one's really going to know to stick around for it, because for 12 Years a Slave and for Paul Blart Mall Cop, people just want to get out of that cinema as soon as possible because they've been so emotionally affected by it. It's
Totally.
rage and sadness. According to this Wikipedia page, the Birth of a Nation movie, the Nate Parker one, has got a post-credit scene. What happens?
For the sequel?
Does Nick Fury turn up and want to recruit Nat Turner to be a member of the Avengers because he can fight so well?
Well, maybe the end credit scene for that is like showing the start of Civil War, like. I mean, not Marvel Civil War, the actual Civil War. Because it's about a slave revolt, isn't it? So it's like, well, obviously the slave revolt didn't work, I'm guessing, because otherwise why would they need to have the Civil War to end slavery? So
because if it was like leading into Marvel Civil War, that's still Nick Fury turning up. Oh my god. Yeah, if it turns out the Birth of a Nation movie is like a prequel to Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. And Abraham Lincoln, with an axe that is also a shotgun, turns up and recruits him.
No, that'd be amazing.
My God! And just when I thought we couldn't get any more unsettling conversations out of a Birth of a Nation movie, at least until the movie's release after we talked about it a few weeks ago. Just when I thought me and you couldn't go any lower.
No, we can always go lower.
We can. Oh my goodness, we can.
Well, I think it's just on 3 hours. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I don't know how to end. How do you follow that?
Very awkwardly.
Very.
So that's how you end it, yes. Okay, so thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, on this episode of Movie Mania. Join us next week, where we cover X-Men Apocalypse, as we should have all seen it by then. Fingers crossed. We'll cover X-Men Apocalypse, and of course you can continue to put in your listener questions on the Facebook and Twitters, and that we'll try to do a clean-up episode with all them, getting the questions we've missed previously next week. Trilbee, where can the people find you?
You can find me cowering in the corner. You can find me probably watching Top Gun on my Twitter at Trilbee Reviews. You can find me on my website www.trilbee.com. Subscribe to my movie channel Trilbee Reviews, and also my Facebook, which is Mr. TARDIS Reviews, because I mainly talk about whatever I want, and also TV stuff there. So, Bandit, what about you? Where can people find you when you're not doing terrible things to Birth of a Nation?
People can find me on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter as Bandit Incorporated. So, thank you very much for joining us, our movie maniacs.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.